But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know if it was a rocket or whatever, but it could be fast, opposite direction. It was too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
Self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest. Into the digital darkness.
All right, good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. This is the show where we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what those things are? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. We do this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Periscope, and we're reading chat in all those places. And we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM, which is a digital radio station. And as always, as you guys are aware, this show is about all those things, but it's also about a two-way conversation. This is not your normal radio show where you tune in and you veg out and maybe watch a ball game at the same time because, well, you're bored. And no, this is a two-way conversation that begins with a premise. And the premise is simple. We talk about all those things I described, and you kind of don't know what you're going to get from night to night because that's part of the excitement here. You're curious about what's going to play, what we're talking about, and sometimes it is UFOs. Like tonight. Tonight we're going to talk about UFOs, and it's most shows we do are exactly as described, and meaning that it's sort of a conversation that's non-linear. And it's open-ended, meaning that if you guys have anything to add to the conversation, that's why we do it live. That's why we've always done it live. And it really is the secret weapon of this show, like I said, less a show, more of a conversation. And so as we do this, and as I ramble and get to the point here, basically we're streaming live to include you as part of this. So if you want to be part of the show tonight, you can give us a call at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and you could join the Discord at troubledminds.org. That would be the official website. And Discord, of course, is a chat client. It's a voice client, and you can. It's free. It's totally free. Basically, it's you know how you can look at most of the internet and just kind of hold your nose and go, okay, you know what I'm talking about. Some of those websites out there, like Facebook, one of those ones, right? I'm sorry, I hate to bring it to that, but there are some websites out there where you're just kind of like shaking your head, like, what am I doing here? But other times, there's very nice things on the internet, and Discord is definitely one of them. So as we continue and stream tonight and do our thing, we are taking your calls at that number, and also on Discord. Like I said, it's a chat client, voice client, and it's totally free. So you can be on the show worldwide without any costs. What's up, guys? I see you in the chat, and how is everybody there? Thanks for showing up. Like I said, I'm reading all the chat as we go, trying to do 10 things at once, and that's all okay. That's okay by me. I'll do my best to keep up with you guys, and that's what's going on. So tonight, right? We were thinking of some things to do because we are new on Rockfin. If you guys haven't noticed, we've been talking a lot about this because, well, censorship is a thing, and they've run us off of several platforms now, demonetized on YouTube, of course, for a very long time. Facebook has completely decimated our reach so that we can't even be a part of a conversation there anymore because, well, like I said, 40,000 plus followers and 10 people show up. That seems, well, uncanny. That seems mathematically impossible, let's say. But, well, if the technocrats are going to play dirty tricks and shut down reach and whatnot, then we'll adapt, we'll change, we'll grow, we'll be different, we'll be better, and that's what we're doing here. So, like I said, we're talking about UFOs tonight as part of these streams, as part of the radio broadcast, and it got me thinking. Right, talking about maybe introducing ourselves to the Rockfin audience here is that. We really haven't kind of delved into any historical UFO type stuff in quite a while because most stuff we do on this show is current events, right? We'll usually start with some current event. Usually it's some weird, twisted scientific thing, breakthrough thing like we did last night. And kind of follow where that conversation goes from there. But tonight is going to be a little different. Like I said, we're going to do the top 5 UFO encounters of all time, and of course, right, compiling that list, there's a ton of stuff. There's an unbelievable amount of really, really weird and bizarre stories out there that are just compelling, inexplicable, and all the rest of this. Okay, and so that's what we're going to talk about tonight. And as like I said, we're calling this the Summer of Saucers, all right, the Summer of Saucers, because why? At the end of June, we started with the UAP report, which, as everybody is aware of now, we did a whole show on that the day it broke and talked about how the government is finally going to tell us all about the UFOs. They're going to tell us all about the alien menace or whatever, right? However, it was, well, let's say hailed as a nothing burger. So that's what that was all about, and it kicked off the Summer of Saucers, and people are talking about congressional hearings and all kinds of other stuff for UFOs. But I mean, let's be real. They've had 70 years to get this right, starting with Roswell, more than 70 years, the supposed Roswell crash in, of course, New Mexico. And, well, now we are supposedly waiting on them to give us some groundbreaking information that really didn't come. It was, again, a big nothing burger. They added a new category called aerial clutter, if you guys remember that, which is kind of LOL. But what are you going to do, right? What are you going to do? So that's why we're talking about this tonight, to really frame this in the sense of the government is trying to tell us, look, we have these particular UFOs, the Tic Tacs. Everybody knows the Tic Tacs, right? We've talked about them ad nauseum from day one when these things first hit for years now, literally years. And this is supposed to be disclosure. This is supposed to be that we're not alone in the universe. Here you go. Here's the evidence. And then they present no evidence. And then we have these same Tic Tac videos that have been talked about for 3 stinking years. 3 years now, more than that. So, okay, if you're gonna make me believe the government actually is trying to bring about disclosure of what may be out there, what they know about it, you got to do better than three videos in 3 years. Okay. And again, like I've always said, and this is a perfect representation of my thoughts on that, is that not only were those 3 Tic Tac videos, right, that, what were they, Fleer, Go Fast, and what was it? I can't remember the third one. Fleer, Gimbal, Go Fast. Fleer 1, Gimbal, Go Fast. Those were the 3. And so with those 3 videos were very similar. Okay, even though they weren't from the exact same incident in all 3 cases there. the UFOs presented to us were one tiny slice of all the UFOs over the last 70 years or even 100 years or however far you want to go back. And that's what kind of made me suspicious, right? The more I talk about this and the more I think about these things, the more I become suspicious of what the government's up to. So we're not going to talk about that tonight. Not really. Kind of just in the periphery of this. But if you look into history, there's some very rich stories regarding UFOs and actual encounters with, again, right? They talk about the witnesses with the Tic Tac stuff and say, oh, but these are fighter pilots, they're trained observers, and they wouldn't make this stuff up and all the rest of this, right? Which is fine. I think that's a fantastic argument if you're talking about UFOs and all the rest of this. But if you if you apply that to the folks today, you have to apply that if something happened in 1948 and it was a fighter pilot that actually encountered the thing. You see what I'm saying? So that's what we're going to talk about tonight. There's a whole bunch of stuff in history here. We're going to go through my top 5 anyway and look at some of the ridiculous things that have happened, been actually investigated by things like Project Blue Book, or in some cases the actual Air Force of Brazil, which we're going to get to tonight as well. But here we go. So let's begin. Once again, this is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. If you want to be part of the show tonight, give us a call. Phone number is right here, and you can reach us at 702-957-1037, and click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. Come join us there. All right, let's go. Let's roll. Let's begin here. There you go. Ronnie says, YouTube didn't notify me. Weird, right? Weird. Oh, what's up, Jack? TikTok, Tic Tac videos, right? Yeah, that's kind of what this is, isn't it? That's kind of what this is. All right, so let's begin here. Now, I was, again, digging through a whole bunch of these, and you guys, some of you have seen this because we kind of had a sneak preview for the Patreon supporters. So, by the way, if you are a Patreon supporter of this show, thank you very much. We're going to do away with Patreon and see if we can move those folks over to Rockfin. So, if you're thinking about continuing to support the show, thank you very much. I will put up a video on Patreon describing why we're doing that, because of course, if you didn't know, Patreon is also in the censorship business, so it's only a matter of time before we get kicked off of there as well, because, well, you know how the world works. But okay, so anyway, just as a housekeeping tip there. All right, so let's continue. There's an incident called the Gorman Dog Fight. All right, now the Gorman Dog Fight, of course, this is straight from Wikipedia, which we'll get off of this in just a sec. I just want to make sure that you see that there is a historical context here, and even sites like Wikipedia have to really discuss these things as they are, right? This is, again, the official story because it's basically technocrat approved right here on what I like to call the Ministry of Truth, which is actually just, Wikipedia. But anyway, the Gorman Dog Fight was a widely publicized UFO incident which took place on October 1st, 1948, in the skies over Fargo, North Dakota, in the United States, of course. U.S. Air Force Captain Edward J. Ruppelt wrote in his best-selling and influential The UFO the Report on Unidentified Flying Objects that the dogfight was one of 3 classic UFO incidents in 1948 that proved to Air Force intelligence specialists that UFOs were indeed real. All right, and so and then there's a couple more that they mention here. I'm not going to go into those because, well, they're probably less important here, but... All right, so here we go. Here's the background of this. Again, this is from Wikipedia, and as you guys know, if you are into this, you've heard of this, maybe you have your own idea of what should belong in the top 5 of UFO incidents, give us a call. Love to hear your thoughts. But here we go. So the background is this. Although he was only 25 years old when the incident occurred, George F. Gorman was a veteran fighter pilot of World War II. After the war, he became the manager of a construction company. He also served as a second lieutenant in the North Dakota National Guard. On October 1st, 1948, Gorman was participating in a cross-country flight with other National Guard pilots. He was flying a P-51 Mustang. His flight arrived over Fargo at approximately 8:30 p.m. Although the other pilots decided to land at Fargo's Hector Airport, Gorman decided to take advantage of the clear, cloudless conditions and get in some night flying time. So he kept flying. He stayed aloft. And around 9 p.m., he flew over a stadium. Now, this is the important part of the story. One of the most important parts is that we don't just have a trained observer as a fighter pilot. We have hundreds of witnesses that were actually at this stadium. I believe it was a football game that was going on down below. But okay, so he flew over let's see, hold on, where are we at? Okay, oh yeah, so he's flying around. He stays out at 9 p.m. He flew over the stadium where a high school football game was being held, and he noticed a small Piper Cub plane flying some 500 feet below him. Otherwise, the skies appeared clear. All right, now this is where this begins, and the crazy part is, like I said, so we have just like today with the Tic Tac UFOs and the rest of this. We have a trained observer, a fighter pilot, a veteran of World War II, actually saw combat. And again, right, like those folks back in the old days, you had to be able to identify aircraft, what kind of aircraft it was, because it could mean your life. You had to be able to identify them in a snap of a finger. You didn't have fancy heads-up displays and electronics doing all this stuff. It was much of the stuff was fly by the seat of your pants and recognize things with a keen eye and like I said, trained observers. They have to be. Their life depends on it. So okay. So then, as this continues, right? So he's flying over this football game, and wouldn't you know it, he sees not just this Piper Cub plane. Now, if you look up what a Piper Cub plane is, it's just a really small, tiny private plane. All right, that's all this really is. But if you so notice he described exactly the type of plane he saw with his own eyeballs. All right, 1948. So this guy's like, okay, I see the plane 500 feet below me. Everything else is clear. And he confirmed that information with the radar tower at I believe it was Hector Air Force Base, or the Hector Airport. I'm sorry. And so he right. So now everything's clear. He's flying over this football game, and what do you think he sees? How do you think this begins? And of course, this was studied by Project Blue Book. Everybody knows Project Blue Book. That was one of the very original UFO investigations brought about by the government, by the actual Air Force, United States Air Force. Let's see. Hey, what's up, Ronnie? You don't have to sign up. Rockfin is actually free. So if you go and it pops up and says sign up, I think you can cancel away and then just sign up for free. So if anybody has done that and can help Ronnie with that, I appreciate that. It is a free thing. You do not have to sub up. You can. That the option to help us out is there. However, it's completely free. You don't have to pay. So thank you for checking that out. It is true that you do not have to pay to be on Rockfin. So there you go. But okay, so as we continue talking about this, what's up, guys? I see everybody else there on Rockfin. Yep, got some folks showing up and adding us. Good stuff. Okay, so that's where this begins. All right, he's flying in. He comes with his buddies. They land. He wants some night flying time, and he flies over this football stadium again. Right, clear skies. He's looking around him. The only thing he notices and verifies with the radar control is there's one other plane in the sky in the area. That's it. This little plane called a Piper Cub, and it's 500 feet below him, right? And that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying here is that if we're going to give the same amount of believability to a modern fighter pilot and say, okay, well, guys like Commander David Fravor, if you're familiar with the story, or Lieutenant Commander Dietrich, I think is their titles there. They said they saw a UFO. They saw these Tic Tacs skimming the water, going up and down super fast, and all kinds of stuff, right? Flying back to their cap point. And if you know the story, then it's compelling for sure. 100%. It's worthy of looking into, okay? It's worthy of considering as what are these things in the sky, all right? So, and that's what we're talking about tonight. Kind of not just with the fact that we have the same thing going on in 1948, which we're about to get to, because of course it just starts there, where he's like almost like everything, right? Everything starts with it was a normal day, right? Nothing unusual was happening, and then all of a sudden, cue the music, right? Dun dun dun, and then what? What happens then? Yeah, he notices in the sky. That's right, a UFO. A UFO. And so a trained fighter pilot notices 500 feet below him a Piper Cub plane, recognizing it enough to describe exactly what type of plane it is, about how fast it's moving, what direction it's going, how far away from him it is, right? Like I said, trained observers, they have to know these things. And so how do you reconcile the two, guys? If you have, again, a modern fighter pilot that we have to take at their word, and I'm not saying that any of these people are liars, but I'm saying if you have to take the modern guys, the modern fighter pilots at their word for these Tic Tacs, don't you also have to take 1948 and Gorman, this pilot? His name is Gorman, and last name is Gorman. Do we have to take his account as actual truth as well? I mean, he's a fighter pilot just the same, combat veteran of World War II. You would expect if he saw something in the sky and didn't know what it was, it would be something, right? It would be something, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Doombot. There's no shenanigans with Rockfin as far as I'm aware. So, no crypto mining there. What's up, guys? What's up, folks? I see you guys in the chat. Thanks for showing up. Thanks for hanging out. Okay, so this is again. So let's get back to this. Now, the Gorman. Now, this is how it begins. Like I said, he's flying over this football stadium. So those are the things he notices: clear skies, one plane in the sky. He recognized exactly what kind of plane it was. He's got this football game that he's flying over, and it's about 9 p.m., all right? 9 p.m. his time in, where was this? This is in Fargo, North Dakota in 1948, all right? So here we go. Yeah, see, you guys are in the chat. You're right about a lot of this stuff here. Okay, so here we go. So that's what happens, okay? Now, this is the thing. At about 9:07 p.m., Gorman contacted the control tower at Hector Airport and asked if it had any other air traffic in the air other than his P-51, which he was flying, and the Piper Cub, which he noticed flying 500 feet below him. The tower answered that it did not. There was no extra aircraft in the sky, on radar, or anywhere else. No visible of anything else. And so he said, okay, and then... Let's see. Let's see. Okay, and then, so he did see, now this is where he sees it. Out to his west, he sees another object. When he looked for the outline of a wing or a fuselage or propellers or whatever to see it, to identify this, as you would expect a fighter pilot to do, you see something in the sky, you try and identify what it is. Is it friend or foe? All right, so he's checking, and of course, there's no visible flight surfaces. Where have we heard this before? There's no wings, there's no fuselage, there's no anything that actually depicts this thing as being a plane at all. It looks like, very much like we're describing here, a Tic Tac UFO or a glowing orb or something to this effect, right? Very similar how these stories kind of shake out, right? And so he calls into the radar control at Hector Airport, and they say negative, nothing on radar. We've only got, you, that plane, and that's it, clear skies. So what do you think this thing is? And again, right, just because this happened in 1948, should we just discount this pilot's testimony because we were dumber in 1948 as people? I'm not so sure about that. We didn't have the internet back then. But you get my point, right? So he spots this UFO. He actually sees a UFO, and he's calling in to verify with the control tower. And what do you think happens? It's about to get spicy. So what we're talking about tonight is the top 5 UFO encounters of all time, all right? And we're starting with the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight. That's right. It's a dog fight. So he notices this UFO out there, and we'll get to this after the break, and we'll continue with this story. But when he notices this thing, he starts to wonder what's going on. And like any good fighter pilot, right, he turns toward it and begins to engage, meaning he's going to investigate, get closer, and he's going to see what's going on with this mysterious light in the sky. And that's what's going on tonight. That's what we're talking about. And I hope you dig this type of stuff. This is, like I said, when you kind of look at things in historical contexts and go back to actual UFO investigations, there are some pretty amazing things that happened in the past that, like I said, were not discussed in the UFO report that happened in June or, well, almost anywhere else. Everything's tic-tac, 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 tic-tac UFO. And, well, we're about to see we have a actual dogfight happening in 1948 with a P-51 Mustang plane. So that's what we're talking about tonight, the top 5 UFO encounters of all time, and we'd love to hear from you. If you want to be part of the show tonight, give us a call at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange. We're taking your phone calls tonight. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And we are streaming on Rockfin, DLive, YouTube, and Periscope. And of course, we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. If you want to come join us in the chat, troubledminds.org. Click the Discord link. Also, join us in the Fringe Discord chat, fringe.fm/chat. Come say hi. Like I said, we're big fans of Discord on this show because it's an amazing program. It's totally free, and you can communicate with people all over the world. It's incredible. But tonight, back to the topic. We're not sponsored by Discord, I promise. You just have to say nice things about great software when they make it. So I truly believe that, and that's why I bring them up all the time. So there we go. But tonight we're talking about UFOs. UFOs in a historical context, meaning that, we've called this the Summer of Saucers, in that we had the UFO report at the end of June that unfortunately ended up being a gigantic nothing burger, right? That's probably the general description. Some people found a nugget of, interesting information in there. But for the most part, it was a whole lot of nothing. But, like I said, in the terms of the last 3 years, UFOs have become a mainstream topic. And that's good, right? Unless, of course, the mainstream information that's coming out of it with the news and with these Tic Tac UFOs that they keep putting up. You guys have seen it, the gun camera footage and the little things out there that are kind of moving around. Very fuzzy footage. That's all we've got, right? We got some fighter pilots talking to each other going, "Whoa, bro, it's a UFO!" And all of it seems a little bit sus. And so if we're talking disclosure and we're getting that from the government, it makes me suspicious, especially in the context of history, meaning that there are a ton of old UFO cases that are compelling as hell. And they have almost nothing to do with this Tic Tac type stuff that we're seeing now. There's some amazing encounters, and that's what we're talking about tonight. We we're digging through some of these old encounters, and I picked out 5 that I think are the most incredible UFO encounters ever of all time. And this is what I mean. Let's say modern history. Let's call it that. But the thing is this. If you spend any time looking at the skies and you've seen something strange out there, and odds are you have, right? Odds are you have. Because why else are you here? You know what I'm saying? Or maybe you know somebody who's seen something, or et cetera, right? If you spend any time looking at the sky and you do it a lot, you're going to see something strange. I've seen some weird stuff out there. Of course, I live in Las Vegas, and Area 51's right here, and we got Nellis Air Force Base. So you would expect to see some strange things in the sky, right? So that's the thing. I don't know. Like, considering this Tic Tac stuff, that's what makes me frustrated about all of it, is where we have this strange bit of it almost seems like propaganda, like UFO propaganda. And so in kind of framing it that way and saying, okay, if the United States has some sort of maybe, hypersonic drones, or, plasma projections, like I've said in the past, I don't know what these things are, all right? But do I think they're actual, like, little green men flying these objects? I would be very, very suspicious of that, not because I don't believe aliens are out there. Surely I do. The universe is far too large for it to not be, for them to not be out there somewhere. But do I believe that if that was the case, the U.S. government would give us access to footage like that? I don't think so at all. I think if they actually had that, they'd keep it locked up really nicely and never let us see it, because it would undermine everything. It would undermine the government. Anyway, so that's kind of my point tonight, is looking at from the Summer of Saucers, this summer here, as we get into late August and maybe getting into the fall. What will the fall be, by the way? What is autumn going to be after the summer of saucers? The UFO hangover letdown? What's gonna happen? Is it going to be congressional hearings on UFOs? That's what people are pushing for. I don't know. I'm not sure. We'll keep an eye on that and maybe give us a tongue-in-cheek name for what this fall is going to be regarding UFOs. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe we get the nothing burger of the nothing burgers. But okay. So anyway, with these Tic Tac UFOs in mind as what we're seeing tonight, meaning in the sky, in the propaganda world of mass media, this is all that comes up, right? The Tic Tacs, the gun camera footage, Commander Fravor and Lieutenant Commander Dietrich, and these people, right? And like I said, I have no reason to believe they're lying to us. Not at all. They saw what they saw. But my point is, if you trust them because they're trained observers, naval aviators, the whole thing, why can't you trust this guy from 1948? And his name, of course, that's right. Name is, where is it? This is Gorman, the Gorman Dog Fight, right? And the individual in question here is George F. Gorman, a World War II veteran fighter pilot. And so as we just recap the story real quick, he was flying into, where was this? Fargo, North Dakota. And he flew over a football game going on below him, a high school football game. He saw one plane in the sky, and he saw, what did he see? That's it. There was one plane, clear skies, nighttime, about 9:07 p.m., and he sees twinkling in the distance. That's right. You better believe it, he sees a UFO. All right? And this is where it starts to get a little crazy because, of course, what does he do? What exactly does he do? Yeah, he does what any fighter pilot would do, and he moves in closer to investigate. He turns his plane toward the UFO and starts to move in to take a look. Like we said when we just before we took the break there, it was not anything at all regarding a fuselage, wings, nothing like this. No flight structure whatsoever. He couldn't recognize anything at all. No actual terrestrial plane to his knowledge. And he's an expert. Again, he's an expert fighter combat pilot from World War II. You better believe if he saw something in the sky and it was an airplane, he would be able to tell you exactly what it was. So, okay, so that's what happens. He turns toward this. He starts to investigate. And what happens? What do you think happens? Yeah, the UFO starts to evade him. The UFO begins to duck, dodge, and weave. And he starts, like, now he's literally engaged in a dogfight with a UFO. And all right, so let's go. This is from the history.com. I linked it in the chat if you guys want to check it out. As always, I encourage you to check out these sources and read this stuff yourself, just so you can see that I'm being transparent about this. I can't tell you what these things are. I don't know what UFOs are, all right? I don't know. But what I can tell you is, look, there are sources out there that corroborate the information I talk about. And so that's why it's important to me as part of that transparency process, as well as the phone number that you can reach me tonight or pretty much anytime. The phone number is persistent. You can leave us a voicemail, and I will hear it. And if it's appropriate, I will play it on the show. And so there you go. If you want to be, one more time, you want to be part of the show, have you heard of this, the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight? And do you think it actually belongs on the list of the top 5 UFO encounters ever? Looking for your feedback tonight, 702-957-1037. So here we go. Here we go. So now, so what makes the Gorman Dog Fight unique in the now declassified pages of Project Blue Book is not only the length of the encounter, but that it was recorded both on the ground and in the sky by numerous reputable sources. And of course, this was the air traffic control at Hector Airport. You have the hundreds of witnesses down at the high school football game. And as anybody knows, in Fargo, they take their high school football seriously. So there's a lot of people there, right? And that's what this is all about. So then he notices this light in the sky, and he turns his aircraft to bear and starts to pursue. And then what happens? Yep, you got it. It turns into an actual dogfight. He's chasing this thing. It's chasing him back and forth. And here we go, straight from this article on history.com. So let's see, all the other pilots land. So deciding to follow, Gorman tried in vain to catch up with the object. He's trying to catch this thing now, this glowing light in the sky that's moving around. It seems to have its own autonomy. It's not what you would describe as a weather balloon or something like this. It's actually moving around faster than his airplane, okay? So here we go. So he goes following it and reporting that he finally got behind it at around 7,000 feet altitude, where it made a sharp turn and headed straight for him, heading straight for his P-51 airplane, all right? Almost at the point of collision, Gorman dived and said the light passed over his canopy at about 500 feet before cutting sharply once more and heading back in his direction. Just as collision seemed imminent once again, Gorman said the object shot straight up in the air on a steep climb, so steep that when he tried to intercept, his plane stalled at about 14,000 feet. Now look, this is the craziest part about this. So he brings the plane to bear, and this thing responds. Literally responds to what he's doing, and it starts flying directly at him, all right? And then it dives, and then he turns to chase it again. It comes back. Again, collision course twice. This thing is like this UFO is playing chicken with this man. And it comes right at him again and then shoots straight up at such a degree, such an angle that his plane stalls trying to go up to catch it. Now, once again, right, this is 1948. This is not today. This is not the same Tic Tacs today. But notice, it's interesting that a lot of the same stuff is working exactly like they described, like Fravor and these guys described with the Tic Tacs in those incidents, right? So, yeah, it's just strange that we have these incidents that go way back. Like I said, this is 1948. 1948, guys. And so was he confused by Venus in the night sky? Was this a weather balloon, as they wrote it off as? Things like this. I think this is the problem, that if you go back and look, like I said, if you take it into account of what's his name, Fravor and Dietrich and these guys, is it the same situation where we should trust this guy because he is a trained aviator, right? So anyway, Jack, stop it. All right, so here we go. There you go. That's what this is. And so it ends up, all right, so how does this end up? How does this story end up? Like I said, we're talking about the top 5 UFO encounters of all time. And yeah, this one is the Gorman Dog Fight. So then he sketched this up. I'm going to put it up on the stream and you guys can see exactly what's going on here. And let's see, sound is not working. Everything should be fine. Everything should be fine sound-wise. Sound check, guys. 1, 2. Okay, so he drew this diagram of exactly how the incident went down. And if you look at this, right? If you look at this actual diagram, this is extremely detailed. He describes how the entire incident with this UFO went, with the dogfight and everything else. And you see, like, as soon as he landed, he debriefed and he wrote all this stuff down so he didn't forget the details. And as you can see, if you're looking at this, it is incredibly detailed, like telling you the altitude, elevation, all this stuff, where the UFO came at him, how he turned to chase it, and all the rest of that. Let's see. Sound not working. Let's see. There's something going on. All right, so anyway, we're going to keep on trucking here, and if we have an internet problem or something, I have no idea, but let me know on the streams. Are we sounding good out there? Let's see. What else do we got? Let's see. Keep having problems with voice on Discord. Yeah, all right, what's up? Okay, TalkStream Live is where the problem's happening. Okay, so we got radio issues, but I think the streams are still working. But okay, so anyway, you get the idea. How this ends up, of course, is he says there's definite thought behind its maneuvers. This thing was not just a simple, like I said, a weather balloon or something like Venus in the night sky. He was actually being chased by this thing, and he was actually chasing this UFO. Okay, so shaken by the encounter, the pilot went on to report he noticed no sound, no exhaust trail or odor from the object, and while he reached speeds of up to 400 miles per hour while in pursuit, he couldn't keep up with whatever it was. So once again, right, we have this actual dogfight that happened with the UFO, and this guy, hundreds of witnesses down on the ground, all right, hundreds of witnesses because they were flying over this football game at night. And so what does this mean? Like again, 1948. We didn't have that technology then, so this is my point. There are way more compelling incidents in history than just this Tic Tac stuff that they keep kind of stuffing down our throat. You guys all know what I'm talking about. So here we go. So we're done with this one. There's some more links if you guys want to check it out. It's called the Gorman Dog Fight, October 1st, 1948 in Fargo, North Dakota. And yeah, so he ends up chasing this thing. It chases him. And after the whole incident, he's shaken because he's never seen He has never seen anything like this because, of course, no flight surfaces, no smell, no anything. He was traveling up to 400 miles per hour in his plane, the P-51 Mustang, and he could not catch this thing. The altitude was too steep to chase up. He couldn't chase it anywhere else because it was too fast, and it was basically flying circles around him. At that point, maybe not a state-of-the-art aircraft, but definitely it was a fighter plane. So it was no slouch, right? So anyway, that's what we're talking about tonight, the top 5 UFO encounters, and that's the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight. Happened in 1948, and we have, again, a very credible witness, and lots of witnesses at the Hector Airport, the air traffic control, lots of witnesses down on the ground at the football game. And this is what I'm saying, right? And if you compare that just apples to apples against the stuff that happened today, that the UFO stuff on the Tic Tacs and that stuff, that was all naval, right? That was all Navy. That was all fighter pilots. There were no civilian witnesses. There were no air traffic control civilian witnesses at all. It was all military data. All right? So you see what I'm saying? The point is that the two things are similar except for all the witnesses in 1948 in this Gorman UFO dogfight. So there we go. What's up? You're fine here and on Rockfin, Mike, just so you know. Thank you. So the streams are working. We're having issues with Fringe. We'll keep on trucking. Hopefully it irons itself out. Everything looks fine on my end. I didn't push a dummy button and turn anything off, so it should be rolling. So thank you for the sound checks, guys. Okay, so that's the first one. Now again, right, the Gorman UFO dogfight 1948. Now, we're going to continue talking about this, but like I said, do you guys have any comment on this so far? Do you think there are more that we should talk about? Can you think of, have you heard of this particular UFO incident? And if you have, love to hear from you. If you want to be part of the show, as you know, we do this live to include you. Give us a call, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and we're talking about UFOs tonight. And not just UFOs, the top 5 UFO encounters of all time. All right, so there you go. All right, so let's keep on trucking with this. There's more. Let's get started on this next one before we go to the break here. Now this one here, let's see, Gorman UFO Dogfight, not that. All right, now how about this one? Many of you guys have heard this one. Of course, this is probably one of the most famous in the last 20 years actual UFO incidents, and it is known as the Phoenix Lights. And now this is what I'm talking about. If we're looking at in a historical context of the Tic Tacs now, like this is supposed to be disclosure. If you go back in history, there are incidents that happened that are just way more out there and compelling than these goofy gun camera footage we get today and expected to believe that this is disclosure, right? That's kind of my point here as we're kind of lining things up and discussing them as we go. There we go. So Robert, there you go. I see you in the chat. My top 5 UFO incidents. So there we go. We're starting there. We're starting with the Gorman UFO dogfight. Now we're going to the Phoenix Lights. Now, this one, again, this is a little bit weird because not only do we have this maybe triangle-shaped object that's flying into Phoenix, we have thousands of witnesses. Again, thousands of witnesses. And you see how these things are different, very different from these, the one that's coming out of the Navy at this point. Because, like I said, we have only military witnesses. And in particular, that's what makes me suspicious about this, because we don't have any civilian contact. It's just basically, as you know, we can concoct a narrative. Okay, if we get official information coming from the government, coming from the U.S. Navy, okay? So that's the thing that makes me suspicious. So here we go. The Phoenix Lights, as you guys know, were a series of widely sighted unidentified flying objects, or UFOs, observed in the skies over the U.S. states of Arizona, Nevada, and the Mexican state of Sonora. It happened March 13th, 1997. And here we go. Lights of varying descriptions were seen by thousands of people between 7:30 p.m. and 10:30 p.m. Mountain Standard Time in a space of about 300 miles from the Nevada line through Phoenix to the edge of Tucson. There were 2 distinct events involved in the incident: a triangular formation of lights seen to pass over the state, and a series of stationary lights seen in the Phoenix area. The United States Air Force identified the second group of lights as flares, of course, wink wink, flares, dropped by an A-10 Warthog aircraft that were on training exercises at the Barry Goldwater Ridge in southwest Arizona. Witnesses claim to observe a huge Carpenter's square-shaped UFO containing 5 spherical lights or possibly light-emitting engines. And yeah, so that's how this one begins. And once again, right, like I said, if you look at history, there's a lot more out there, and it seems strange to me that if we're going with a government disclosure report, some of these things, some of these amazing things that have happened in the past, they didn't even get mentioned, right? And so this is what I'm saying. When you control a narrative and you try and make people believe a certain thing about UFOs in particular, well, you basically cherry pick your UFO sightings to not include civilian sightings. The first one, hundreds of civilians witnessed at the football game, the air traffic control, and the actual fighter pilot himself, right? In this case, we have thousands of people that witnessed this thing, and there were 2 incidents, of course, sure, fine. Let's write one off as flares that they said dropped from the A-10 Warthog. Fine, that's fine. Training exercise. But what about this one? What about the one that looks like, looks like this? Looks like this exact picture right here. And I'll blow this up on the screen. And so that's an artist representation, okay, of what this actually is, this Phoenix Lights thing, okay? That's what they described people had seen up in the sky. And it hovered, it was silent. Again, thousands of people saw this. For 106 minutes on March 13th, people saw something like this V-shaped object flying over Arizona. And so what is this? What in the world could this be? I think that's the bizarre question and what we're doing tonight, and kind of discussing in historical context why these Tic Tac UFOs are not the most amazing sightings ever. So why in the hell is the government using them as a justification for disclosure, right? This is what I'm talking about. What about this? What about the Gorman UFO? What about the ones we're going to get to as we continue talking? Now, I know 1997 and Phoenix, Arizona, is close enough that, and not too long ago, that maybe we have people out there that were maybe in Phoenix at that time. Is there anybody out there who actually saw these things or know somebody who witnessed the Phoenix Lights back in 1997? Love to hear from you. As you guys know, we do this to include you. So tonight we're talking about the top 5 UFO incidents of all time, and not only that, why I am very suspicious of the Summer of Saucers, meaning the UFO report that came out in June, and how they keep citing these same 3 videos of these Tic Tacs. I've told you guys a lot on this show what I think about that in particular, but here's another reason why. This is another case against that as being disclosure, all right? And it means that there's a lot more compelling cases in history. And that's what we're talking about tonight, the top 5 UFO cases of all time. And you'll see that there's some amazing stuff as we continue. So we're still talking about the Phoenix Lights, and we'll get there and continue talking about this. But as you know, we're taking your phone calls tonight. If you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can also join the Discord at troubledminds.org. And we're going to just keep on trucking, talking about UFOs tonight. And what do you think? If you had to maybe pick a top 3 or a top 5 or a top crazy UFO encounter that you've heard in folklore or mythology or read somewhere from Project Blue Book or wherever else, what do you think that is? I'm giving you my list tonight, and like I said, there's some compelling stuff out there. There's some sightings you just can't easily explain away, and well, that's what we're doing tonight. So thanks for hanging out, thanks for being here, and we're going to keep on trucking, talking about UFOs tonight. So one more time, I'm Michael Strange. This is Troubled Minds, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Don't go anywhere. More UFOs, the Phoenix Lights, and more after the break. talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. And through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are calling random images as they traverse neurons in the brain.
All right, so maybe,
and they also feel them planting or
broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
all right, good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm being told we're not actually on the radio, but everything seems to be loud and clear. Everything looks good on my end, so if it's a technical issue, I'm sorry about that. But all right, this is the show where we get together and talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. Of course, that would be aliens, conspiracy, paranormal. That would be the government, academia, and the 24-hour news cycle. And of course, propaganda and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. We are streaming on Rockfin, DLive, YouTube, and Periscope, and we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM, and we're taking your phone calls tonight as we discuss the top 5 UFO sightings of all time. Now, of course, you probably ask 1,000 people, you get a different list from everybody, but these are the ones I think are most compelling, of course, in light of the Tic Tac videos that have come out recently in the last couple 3 years that have got all the attention, the 60 Minutes and Fox News and CNN. Everybody's talking about UFOs. Of course, because this is the summer of saucers, as we've called it, meaning that, the UFO report came out in June, and it was what people like to call a big nothing burger. And so, unfortunately, that's where we're at. We're at the point of a government that's trying to give us information about UFOs, and we're not really getting anything. We're not. I mean, come on. Like I said, we have these 3 kind of crappy Tic Tac videos, the gun camera footage that, fine. Like I said, by themselves, they're compelling. They're okay, right? It's fine. But, like I said, if you go back into history and you start looking at some of the UFO encounters that have happened, documented with people, again, dozens or hundreds or thousands of witnesses and some other really crazy stuff, there's a lot of, really make you scratch your head and wonder what's going on in this world, right? And I think that's what's going on here. Okay. And that's what we're talking about tonight. UFOs, top 5, and we are taking your phone calls. So if you want to be part of the show, you can give us a call at this phone number here, 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can also join the Discord at troubledminds.org. And also, we got another Discord running at fringe.fm/chat. It's the same program. 2 different chat rooms. I'm trying to watch all of it. That's why I put myself on TV, because it always looks easier when you're on TV, right? And also, the brainwash joke. And anyway, there you go. If you guys are watching the streams, you know what I'm talking about. I got a little TV overlay here. But okay, so anyway, we left off on the Phoenix lights, and we do have Fred here actually in the chat that lived in Phoenix at the time. He said he was there, except he didn't see anything that night. Unfortunately, things come and go, and if you don't get the call, if somebody in the neighborhood isn't screaming at the sky and you notice and come out and look, well, you miss it. And so unfortunately, I think our good buddy Fred missed it. But he was there. He was in Phoenix in 97, and this did happen. So again, right, we have a couple different things going on. We have this huge chevron UFO that's floating over Phoenix, Arizona, and this is back in 1997. And so as a result of this, not just, again, to compare it to the gun camera footage, right, of the interesting stuff that's coming from the United States Navy at this point and trying to tell us this is disclosure, we have these other things. The Gorman Ufo Dog Fight, which had hundreds of witnesses back in 1948, a credible fighter pilot witness, and now we have this Phoenix Lights thing, where not just a few people saw this, thousands of people saw this over several hours, over 3 states, and even into Mexico that night. And it was huge. This thing was gigantic, like the size of a football field, they say, even larger maybe. And it was shaped like a chevron, and it had lights underneath it, right? Very much like people have described the TR-3B or things like this. As you know, as we talk about the stuff on this show, what's really going on with this? Is there some sort of secret space program where the government has this stuff and they're not telling us? Or is this indeed some other thing from wink, wink, another world? So speaking of compelling cases, that's the Phoenix Lights, and that's what's going on. Top 5 UFOs of all time. We're talking about it tonight, and we're doing our thing. So let's keep on trucking here. Let's see. What else do we got? Okay, so let's go. Actually, we are taking your phone calls, like I said. Let's go to James. James is in the caller queue on Discord. James, are you there, my friend? Can you hear me?
I'm here. Welcome
to the show. This is James from the Salcedo Paranormal Podcast. Welcome. What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
Thank you. I just thought I'd comment on all this because basically as someone who is just getting into more of the UFO stuff, you mentioned the report and everything. What's interesting about all that is at the time I was just starting to get into all this. So I was excited about the report because I didn't really know much about how all of this works. And of course, after it came out, I was just like, okay, what is this? But yeah, so I think I do agree with you that there are more interesting things than just what the the media and everybody is putting out there. So I just thought I'd add that. Just I can see why people that aren't they don't look into all this stuff, why they would be excited about that those kind of reports and the social media and all that at first. Because I did join, I followed a lot of people on Twitter and all that, but I'm a lot more skeptical of it all now. But I'm still interested.
Yeah, but you see, though, just the first two we talked about, the Gorman Dog Fight in 1948 and then the Phoenix Lights, literally just those two are far more compelling than these Tic Tacs just because of the sheer number of witnesses involved and the different types of craft we're experiencing here. So that's the frustrating part, is that we're expected to believe that the actual disclosure effort from the government is anything at all when it seems to be very, very scripted, let's say. Like it's almost like they planned it. Okay, let's do this. Almost like they planned it like a disinformation campaign. You know what I'm saying? That's what strikes me as this gun camera footage and the Tic Tac stuff.
And it felt the same way to me once I actually started paying attention to all the, like I said, all the social media and all the report and everything. I was just like, why is everybody so excited about all this? I didn't, like you said, I mean, there's, those two cases you mentioned alone, I mean, those are interesting to me, especially the Phoenix one, the Phoenix Lights case. That's really, I've always thought that really interesting. But also, I do think that the more interesting ones are the cases where the government is barely even involved because it's people that just have experiences. And I find those more interesting in a way than anything that comes out of any official channels.
Yeah, well, because the official channels are, highly redacted. They're, again, scripted. Yeah. You have PR front people like the Susan Goff of the Pentagon issuing statements. Yeah. I mean, this is where we're at, right? So again, I trust several hundred people at a football game that could say, hey, whoa, there was something in the sky that night, much more than I trust anything coming out of the government. And I think that's probably the largest point tonight that I'm trying to make as we go through history and look at some of the amazing things that they're not talking about. They've kind of just let it disappear into the past. And again, they expect us to have 48-hour memories, but that's not the case. We don't forget, right? That's the media for you. Yeah. So, okay. Then anything else on that while we got you on?
No, I think that was it. I just want to say I can understand why people that, don't look into all this would be excited. I mean, I posted some of the news media links about that report when it was happening and all that. But I can understand why people that aren't familiar would be excited, but you just have to look into everything. It's really all, you have to do your own research. That's really what it comes down to.
Amen to that. Amen to that. Great stuff as always. James from the Salcedo Paranormal Podcast. Thanks for chiming in, my friend. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, brother. Have a great night. Thank you for listening. Thanks for calling. And there you go. So you see, the way these conversations go, they're more rich when you guys call in. What do you think about this? What do you think about the Gorman Dog Fight? What do you think about the Phoenix Lights? We've got some other stuff. We're going to get to some like wild out there stuff as we continue going tonight. But as you know, we are taking your phone calls at 702-957-1037 because we are live, and it is, what day is it? It is Tuesday. Is it Tuesday? Is it Wednesday? I lose what day it is. It's Wednesday. If it's Wednesday night and you can hear us, we're streaming and we're taking your phone calls. So let's go to, I'm not sure who this is, but welcome to the show. You're on Trouble Minds with Mike. What's your first name and where are you calling from?
Hello, sir. Yes, calling from New Mexico.
New Mexico. What's your first name? It doesn't have to be real.
JR.
JR from New Mexico. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind tonight, my friend?
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I just was sitting here enjoying the show. I had to call in. To piggyback off what the two of you had been talking about, I mean, can't trust anything the government, is releasing at this point. I think those videos were definitely advanced technology and weren't UFO. The Phoenix Lights, there's so many other examples were such better example. But the newest video we just recently seen, the Tic Tac. I mean, come on, something to divert the attention,
Like I said, it seems like a psyop, doesn't it? It seems like it's scripted. The release is exactly the same thing 3 different times, 3 different incidents. However, like we're saying, if you look into the history and you compare, I've got 2 amazing things that are like way more compelling, way more witnesses than the Tic Tacs at all ever. So there's something up, right? There's something fishy about this.
Right. There definitely something fishy. I've read all the stories and all the different projects that have gone on, like Blue Beam, for example, and all of the discrediting that had gone on, and how extraterrestrial life has been here for years and years and had, been helping and yada yada, or maybe not helping, maybe dehumanizing people. But I don't know, however you want to see if there was a malevolent or, I think they're the good guys, but I think there are good guys, and I think there are definitely bad guys, and we're seeing the unveiling now. I think the stage is being set with all this predictive programming we've been fed, right? And now it's kind of just up to us to do our own research to form our own opinion, because it's going to come quick, and it's going to be like, hey, are you going to be left in the dust with people, holding the signs, or are you going to be on the mountaintop, surviving?
Yeah, right. Let's hope it doesn't get to that. So you do think there's something to this then? This UFO stuff. You think maybe there are entities of a sort, right? You think it's something, it's just not what they're telling us, right? There's something like this?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, like I said, it's compelling when you look at some of these other cases. And again, we have eyewitnesses now. I've seen strange things in the sky. Maybe you have. Have you ever seen anything odd in the sky that you thought,
I've seen a lot of strange things in the sky, especially throughout New Mexico. You have a lot of what you would call hotspots. We have iPhones now, though. We have a lot more advanced technology, and you'd think with the technology we have, we'd see a lot better footage, right? So they're good. They got cloaking devices, and they know. But I've talked with some people. I've worked with some people up in the, like I said, the high mountains, for example. But legitimately up in the high mountains, and we had talked, and this guy's like, no, it's real. You can talk to them if you want. And I was like, what are you talking about? So something to maybe bring conversation in. I don't know, but anyways, I really appreciate you allowing me to come onto the show.
Sure. Have you been listening for long? How did you find us? First time caller, obviously.
Yeah, first time caller. I just appreciate the podcast.
Gotcha.
You know, give everyone something to entertain themselves with, you know, and educate rather than entertain, you know, because I'm learning something right now.
Gotcha. Okay, sweet. I appreciate it. Thank you, JR in New Mexico. Anything else while we got you on?
No. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, my friend.
Have a great night.
Thank you for calling. Look forward to your calls in the future. There you go. It's as simple as that, guys. We got open phone lines. We're talking about UFOs tonight. And what do you think is actually going on out there in the skies? We're still going to get to the top 5 UFO encounters of all time. And like I said, compare and contrast this to what? These Tic Tacs, right? This what seems to be a disinformation campaign from the government. In my opinion, as you guys know, I don't have any at all inside sources. I'm watching the news media just like you are and trying to figure things out just like you are. But I think that when you start to look into, like I said, the rich history of ufology, as they call it, there's stuff out there that's way more compelling than these Tic Tac videos. So thank you for the great phone calls, James and JR. And as you know, we're still taking your calls if you want to be part of the show tonight. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037, and you can find us at troubledminds.org. That's the official website, and you can click the Discord link there, and let's keep on trucking. So we left off talking about the Phoenix Lights. Now, again, the most compelling thing about it is, right, it's this triangle-shaped object. It floated in the night sky for hours. Thousands of witnesses over not just the southern Nevada, northern Arizona, Phoenix in particular, and then it also went all the way down to the Mexico border, right? Sightings all the way across this for hours that night. All right, and this is in March of 1997 is when this happened. And again, the compelling part here is that it's not just, you know, it's not like this Tic Tac stuff where you know, like I said, the only information we get is from the Navy. No. Thousands of people saw this. They put, it caused a huge media stir, a sensation at the time, if you guys remember that. And the odd thing is, it was like this huge craft, gigantic. It was a triangle. It was just enormous in size, like they say, larger than a football field and the rest of this. However, thousands of people saw it. It was silent in the night, just kind of floating very slowly, and well, that's the Phoenix Lights. And of course, you know, there are tons and tons of stories if you dig into some of this stuff. And there's even been some claims of people that have said, this was a story that came out maybe about 9 months ago or something, but there are some people that have claimed, I don't have the link for that because I wasn't prepared to talk about it. It's just kind of a sidelight here. I'll try and find it to add the link to the show notes, because I don't like saying things that I don't have sources for, because then you're like, oh, now Mike's just making stuff up. I'm not. This is sourced. I'll find it. But some people described the Phoenix Lights incident as they were having some sort of telepathic communication with something that was happening above them, and that's what drew them outside to actually look up and see this thing, this chevron-shaped thing in the night sky. So interesting and curious, and all of this as it kind of boils down to, you know, tens of thousands of witnesses, maybe, you know, at least thousands, and what in the world's going on? And that's the weird stuff, right? Okay, so that's the thing. And as we continue talking about this and thinking about this, as you know, we're taking your phone calls. Had a couple great calls here, and you can be part of the show tonight. What do you think about this UFO stuff? And what do you think about the list so far? The Gorman Ufo Dog Fight of 1948, and then we have the Phoenix Lights of 1997. Both cases, at least hundreds of witnesses, and thousands in the case of the Phoenix Lights, and again, two different type of UFOs, two type of aircraft, and I call them aircraft, but they're really UFOs. And what do you think this means? Why aren't we talking about those instances that are way more compelling than this Tic Tac stuff? So, like I said, it's interesting to kind of look back into history and compare notes. You know what I'm saying? So again, 702-957-1037. Click the Discord link, and let's see. I got you, Robert. We'll play that put those McMinnville photos up in the third hour. Okay, I got you. Just remind me as we get there. Okay, so let's keep on trucking and talk about this. So okay, just some other details about the Phoenix Lights in particular as this thing went down. So we got some stuff here. Let's see. So let's go here. All right. So in 1997, like we described, Phoenix Lights, this thing hovered over so what was it? Was it a UFO or was this a hoax? And this becomes a question when you talk about all this type of stuff, because who really knows, right? I guess if you were the hoax perpetrator, you would know. But there we go. The sun had just set March 13th, 1997, when hundreds of people across Nevada, Arizona, and Mexico, it says hundreds, I think it was thousands, by the way, witnessed a collection of UFOs puncture the night sky. The phenomenon has become known as the Phoenix Lights, and its authenticity has been hotly debated ever since. Clearly, if you're talking about UFOs, it's going to be hotly debated, as you know. But here's the thing. Here's the crazy part. The specific details. From 7:30 p.m. to approximately 10:30 p.m., dozens of concerned citizens flooded their local police department phone lines with urgent calls for clarity. They reported floating orbs and a V-shaped craft the size of several football fields hovering above the city of Phoenix. While the glowing orbs remained stationary, the V-shaped object hovered south. But even though pilots in the Phoenix area notified air traffic controllers of what they were seeing, none of them saw anything out of the ordinary on their radars. Then, just as suddenly as they appeared, the Phoenix Lights went dark. They went out. And here's another notable instance with the Phoenix Lights, that one Michael Douglas, wrong guy, Kurt Russell, I believe. It's Kurt Russell. You see what I did there in my brain? But okay, so Kurt Russell was actually flying into Phoenix that night as just a civilian pilot. You know, rich guy, been in movies, has his own plane. You know, he can fly. He was flying into Phoenix that night, and he noticed these lights in the sky and thought, that's really weird. So he was one of the actual pilots that called in to air traffic control to report these bizarre lights he saw above the airport as he was coming into Phoenix that night. And this is what I'm saying, right? So once you spread this out, and I think he was on a late night show talking about that specifically, right? They had the call number of his airplane and all the rest of that, which is kind of what made him notice what was happening, and recalled it, seeing a story about it, and they talked about a private pilot who had called in, right? And he was like, "Holy smokes, that was me! I was there that night." And he went and checked his flight logs to make sure that he wasn't misremembering this, and sure enough, that was him that was flying in, Kurt Russell, and he actually saw the Phoenix Lights and called in and reported them. So, yeah, I mean, and that's what I'm saying, right? So this is the strange thing about all this. The UFOs, as we talk about this tonight, is it something or is it nothing? And if it's something, how big is this something? And we're talking about the top 5 UFO incidents of all time. We got a couple in the books. Talked about the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight, and of course now the Phoenix Lights. We'll get to more. There's more after this, and we're going to keep on trucking and considering all these things. But the whole point of me bringing this up is to basically compare and contrast what's happening with the Tic Tacs and the information coming out of the government, and then being able to look at history and say, well, wait, why is this one thing so compelling that we're told to pay close attention to this summer, specifically with the UAP report, and then why aren't we talking about things like this in particular? How come this incident didn't end up on the UAP report? That's what I want to know. So that's what we're doing tonight, and we're hanging out and we're taking your calls. If you want to be part of the show, you know what to do. Give us a call at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More UFOs, the top 5 crazy UFO encounters of all time. We're talking about it tonight. We're going to keep on trucking. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for listening. Don't go anywhere. More after the break. right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're talking about UFOs tonight. UFOs. Love it, right? And the thing is this. We're streaming on Rockfin. We're streaming on DLive. We're streaming on YouTube. We're streaming on Periscope. And, of course, we're broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. We're watching chat in all the places. And we're considering what the UFO stuff is all about. I decided it was time to maybe look back into the past and maybe consider the things we've seen in the historical reference of UFOs and compare them to the Tic Tacs they keep trying to tell us are, well, the most compelling UFO videos of our lifetimes. Well, may or may not be true, right? And so that's what we're doing tonight. And talking about the top 5 UFOs, we got the Gorman Dog Fight, which we had a fighter pilot in 1948 over Fargo actually have an encounter, a dog fight in his P-51 Mustang with an actual UFO. It played chicken. It almost hit him twice, and then it climbed so steeply that his plane almost stalled as he tried to pursue. Thank you, Jay, for the link there. Appreciate that, guys. And so that's the thing, right? There's one way more compelling. Hundreds of witnesses at a high school football field down below, witnesses at the air traffic control tower that day, and again, we have a fighter pilot that drew a detailed description of exactly what happened during the encounter, the UFO encounter of, I think it was George Gorman is the individual's name, back in 1948. Now, then for number 4, we had the Phoenix Lights. And the thing that's most compelling about the Phoenix Lights to me is, like I said, the witnesses. The amount of witnesses is huge, like huge. And I did mention, thank you to Robert out there for pulling up this article. And I did mention before we went to the break that Kurt Russell actually was one of the private pilots that did the called in and reported this. Okay, sorry, I was trying to mute my cell phone here. It's beeping off the hook. All right. So here we go. This is from just to add this to that conversation as part of the Phoenix Lights. Thank you again to Robert on Rockfin for providing the link. And we do have the YouTube video of his interview where he discussed this. We'll play that in the third hour if you guys are interested. But this is from IndieWire.com. Kurt Russell reveals he was the pilot who reported the Phoenix Lights UFO sighting. And right there it is in the article. So he says, quote, "I was flying his son Oliver to go see his girlfriend, and we were on approach," Russell explained. "I saw 6 lights over the airport in absolute uniform in a V shape. Oliver said to me, I was just looking at him. I was coming in, or maybe a half mile out, and Oliver said, 'Pa, what are those lights?' He continued, then I kind of came out of my reverie, and I said, 'I don't know what they are.' He said, are we okay here?' And I said, 'Yeah, I'm going to call in.' And I reported it." And again, that's Kurt Russell, right? And this is what I'm saying, right? You have people who have actually come out and said, "I was there that night, and this is what I saw." And he explains exactly what many of the other witnesses saw. And that's the crazy stuff, right? That's what we're talking about. Thank you again to Robert for pulling up that link. I had remembered we talked about that previously on this show, but I hadn't actually pulled up the link to kind of cover that. But yeah. There are lots of people that have seen this. Again, thousands of witnesses at least that night of the Phoenix UFO. And it was V-shaped, it was silent, it was hovering, and it was not flares. I mean, there were, like they said, there were 2 incidents. And it almost seems like maybe they dropped flares to maybe obfuscate that there was something up there they couldn't define, right? This is how the government does its dirty work, tries to say, no, we had an operation, and we were dropping flares, and that's what everybody saw. Sure, right? Sure. I'm sure everybody believes that. But anyway, there we go. What's up, guys? How you doing? There you go. There you go. Sherry's right. I'm thinking YouTube is next. Yep. YouTube is next. All right. What's up, Daedalus says, didn't Iranian military engage one in the 70s? And yes, that's another good one. The Iranian UFO, there was a dogfight there as well. And, I think I don't know the details on that. It's been a long time since I saw that, but yeah. So anyway, okay. So let's keep on trucking. We're talking about the top 5 UFO incidents of all time: Gorman UFO, Phoenix Lights, and let's get to number 3. As you guys know, we're taking your phone calls. If you have comments on any of this stuff and you enjoying what you hear, you just want to call and say, "Hey, what's up?" It's all good. We don't screen calls, and we've had a couple great phone calls to kick us off tonight. So looking to hear from you. 702-957-1037, and there you go. Let's get to the next. All right. So number 3 on my list here, as I was kind of going through, is not just the Phoenix Lights, where we just came from. Yeah, that's right. We're going to talk about the Shag Harbor UFO incident, okay? And Shag Harbor in particular, they call this Canada's Roswell, all right? And once again, here we go. This one has military involvement, but the things that we're talking about tonight are really don't have much to do with the military per se. And I think that's what makes most of these things more compelling, is you have civilian witnesses. You have a huge number of witnesses on the ground describing the same things they've seen and experienced. And there seems to be a theme here, right? It's like if the government can't control the narrative of the way the UFO story comes out, they don't want to talk about these particular incidents. And that's right. That's the suspicious part. That's the suspicious part here. So there we go. What else do we got? There we go. Okay, so let's just read a little bit of this. Again, this is from the Ministry of Truth, Wikipedia, just to give us a quick overview, and there's more details we'll get into tonight as we talk about Shag Harbor. But here we go. The Shag Harbor UFO incident was the reported impact of an unknown large object into waters near Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia, a tiny fishing village on the Atlantic coast on the 4th of October, 1967. Again, right, some of these stories are old. And again, like I said, just because they happened a ways back doesn't make them any less compelling, does it? Yeah, and some people write this stuff off as, again, right? Like Project Blue Book said, weather balloons, swamp gas, right? Pareidolia, all this stuff, right? Oh, Venus in the night sky, temperature inversions. You've heard it all, right? And it seems silly. It seems silly because when you get tons of witnesses that see the same things and describe them as we're about to describe this, it doesn't seem legitimate, does it, to just write things off like that? But anyway, here we go. So the reports were investigated by various Canadian civil and military, of course, the RCMP, which is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and the Canadian Coast Guard, and the military, of course, the Canadian Forces, Navy, and Air Force agencies, as well as the U.S. Condon Committee. And this actually was investigated by the Condon Committee, and unfortunately, which was a look into some of these UFO cases, a sort of a way to debrief the Project Blue Book, the entire thing. Okay, so here we go. So this is what happened, right? So we got this. Daryl Dory, his sister Annette, and his mother were sitting on their front porch in Mahoney Bay when they noticed a large object maneuvering above the southwest horizon. The next day, Daryl wrote a letter to RCAF Greenwood Base Commander asking what was flying over the water that evening, as he had never seen anything like it. And this is how it begins, all right? Just like I said, everything always starts with it's just a normal night. Everything is going very predictably, and then suddenly, boom, there's something in the sky, and people start to wonder, what the hell is that? And this is very much how this began. So here we go. So they called in, and here we go. So here's another one. While standing at the wheelhouse of his vessel, Captain Leo Howard Mercy was looking at 4 blips on his Decca radar that were stationary. DECCA radar. When he looked up at about 28 kilometers from the vessel's windows, he could see the 4 bright objects situated in a roughly rectangular formation. The entire crew of nearly 20 fishermen stood on deck and watched the object in the northeastern sky. Mercy radioed the Rescue Coordination Center and the harbor master in Halifax, asking for an explanation, and filed a report with the Lunenburg RCMP, that's again the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Gucci. We love our Canadians north of the border and their adorbs little outfit. They ride horses and wear the red uniforms. It's so cute. Anyway, so they outlined his sighting when they arrived in port. The Halifax harbor sightings, of course, and it just continues, right? So the way it happened is October 4th, 1967, and 11:20 p.m. it was reported that something crashed into the waters of Shag Harbor. All right, and this is where it starts to get weird. At least 11 people saw a low-flying lit object head towards the harbor, and multiple witnesses reported hearing a whistling sound like a bomb, then a whoosh, and finally a loud bang. And this is, again, they call this Canada's Roswell. And here we go again, right? The same or similar instances. We have 4 lights sort of in formation. They're making a whistling sound. You have witnesses all over the place calling in, and you have people out in the water on their boats reporting these things, radioing in to make sure that there's no plane crash or any of the rest of this. It's weird, right? Like some of these instances in history in ufology, they've been written off. They've been discussed as hoaxes or military projects that were classified, or again, just misidentified meteorites, things like this, right? But you got to know, people that are out there on a boat all the time, watching the sky all the time, they know what a meteor looks like. All right, we've all seen meteors, right? Falling stars, right? We see these things all the time. Maybe they're not super abundant, but we've seen them, right? And that's the thing. That's really the question here. When you start looking at people that, are not just knuckleheads, it's funny. Everybody has credibility until they see a UFO, and then they're just, misinformed, right? Knuckleheads, or who knows, whatever they call them, right? Oh, well, it was Venus, right? It was swamp gas. It's ridiculous. But okay, anyway. So then the way this goes down is the thing continues. So this thing crashes into Shag Harbor, and it continues kind of floating around. They have this glowing orb underneath the water, and they consider it like a plane crash. Like there's people out there in boats that see this thing smash into the harbor, and they're like, what in the world? Like there's could be people out there that need help. So the boats start going out there, like civilian fishing boats and whatnot, to go take a look at this thing, to find out, right, if there's a plane crash, if they can help save people, doing the right thing. If you've got the means to help, get out there and help. And that's what they did. Now, what they found when they actually took their boats out there was some sort of glowing mass underneath the water. And it was large, very large, larger than their boat type of thing. And so as they came up on this thing, it was not just floating in the harbor or below the surface, and it was creating some sort of weird foamy slick on the top that was kind of coming around it here. And it was moving. So it wasn't just completely stationary like underneath. It was moving around underneath the water. So as they pull the boats up to this thing and they get closer and closer, they notice there's this huge glowing orb under the water. And what are they doing? They're trying to look for survivors. They think it's a plane crash. They think there's all this other stuff. But it doesn't seem to be that at all. Instead, this thing is floating around, causing this weird greenish foam to kind of come up to the top of the ocean. And they're like, something's not right here. And so this thing is moving around underneath the water, right? And that's what I'm saying. Here we go. Weird. Lots of witnesses from different vantage points. We got people on boats that saw this thing. People in the sky on other airplanes saw this thing crash. Like, we have reputable folks. We got Royal Canadian Mounted Police was out there and saw it. We got a guy named Ron Pond, who's actually a highway patrol officer, a Canadian highway patrol guy, who saw this thing land in the harbor. A lot of this is it seems, again, right? It seems very similar to some of these other stories, except, well, in the fact that there's a ton of witnesses from all kinds of different angles. There's reputable people. There's police officers. There's all the rest of this, folks that see this thing, and they react. They react like it's a plane crash. And so, of course, at that night they didn't find any survivors because it wasn't a plane crash at all. So after some time, the boats that were out there on the harbor witnessing this thing underneath as it was moving around, this glowing huge orb and this bizarre greenish foam that was kind of coming out of the top up to the top from wherever this thing was. It moves around. They follow it. It's not moving super fast, just kind of slow. And then eventually the light goes out. The light just completely shuts down, and they're like, okay, well, that was weird. And so they couldn't, again, right? No rescue attempt because there was nobody in the water. There wasn't an obvious plane crash. It was some sort of anomalous UFO. And that's what we're talking about tonight. Weirdness, right? Weirdness. Let's see. All right. So, and that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the top 5 UFO encounters of all time. Of course, I compiled the list, so this is my list. But what is on your list regarding UFOs? Do you think there's something specific about some UFO encounters that don't get enough play in history, that maybe have been forgotten, and as everything is basically really kind of overridden by these weird Tic Tac videos? I think that's the oddest thing about all of this, and as the UFO conversation continues, is that we're looking at this and getting, fighter pilots and data from, data, I say, which seems laughable because we don't have radar data or anything else. We just have these crappy 3 little videos of the Tic Tacs, and we're supposed to believe this is the cat's meow of ufology. Like, this is disclosure. There's something more to this than what meets the eye, right? It's impressive, fine. Anomalous, sure, fine. Can it be explained away as something actual terrestrial? Yeah, of course. Of course it can. And like I've said, I just thrown out like the plasma idea. The theory was like a radar spoofing that they were testing on new radar systems and these fighter pilots, right? So I don't know. Like there are things here that seem suspicious with the disclosure narrative. And again, if you kind of line it up with history and look at some of these other incidents, again, like I said, the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight, 1948. We got the Phoenix Lights in 1997, and we got this one. When was this again? This was Shag Harbor that happened in 1967. And so the Shag Harbor incident, notably, there's a lot more that goes down with this. It's not as simple as what we said. The guy with the big hair, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Ancient Aliens, right? His take is that he says there are other witnesses that described a second orb come down into the water in Shag Harbor and meet up with the first. All right, meet up with the first orb. And like it was some sort of UFO did crash, but a second one came to help. And so, like I said, it just depends on the sources. The source is a little sketchy because, well, it is what it is. But who knows, right? It depends. If that's an eyewitness account that actually says that's the case, then yeah. And so that version of the story goes like this. A second orb falls in just after the first one and moves over underneath the water to the first glowing orb, right? As the boats are moving out, this thing's kind of floating out into the bay. And another orb comes, another shining light under the water and meets up with it. And then the light turns off, all right? And then, of course, they're describing it as some sort of UFO rescue attempt, where one went down and then another came to help it, maybe repairs or something else. And then both of them, once there was a repair job done or whatever was happening with this incident, the Shag Harbor UFO incident, that they both floated out into the actual Atlantic Ocean, and then they flew off from there. And again, like I said, I couldn't find the actual official sources on those things because, well, ancient aliens. But what can you do? What can you do? Ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, you get the point. You get the point. There are cases that are way more compelling than this Tic Tac stuff. And like I said, it makes me suspicious. It makes me wonder what's really going on with specific things regarding UFOs and the narrative, the official narrative now. So that's what we're talking about tonight. And as always, we're taking your phone calls. What do you think so far? Do you like this type of show where we kind of go back and talk about old stuff, old stories that kind of maybe don't get a lot of play anymore, or maybe they're kind of just maybe brushed aside and forgotten? This isn't the type of show we usually do. This is more of a introducing ourselves to Rockfin, a new audience there, and describing sort of the ideas and the things that we discuss together. So what do you guys think? What's the feedback on the show so far? Like I said, it's usually not the thing we do, but if you like it and this gets gets some positive traction and you guys dig it, we'll do more like this. As you know, this show is your show as well, and as I mentioned, that you can be part of it right now if you want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And that's the three. That's the top three, right? Gorman Ufo Dog Fight, the Phoenix Lights, and of course Shag Harbor now. And again, we have some very, very interesting information. With all of these, we have lots of witnesses every single time. And at this point, we don't even have government witnesses or, trying to stab the narrative or take over the narrative by controlling the information. Because that's the thing, if you get so many witnesses of something, of some sort of UFO, a compelling UFO, they can't control it. They can't control that narrative. And that's part of the issue here, right? And so this new narrative, the new Tic Tac UFOs, that narrative is fully and completely controlled by the United States government. Neat, right? Neat. Yeah, interesting. What's going on, guys? There you go. What's up? 40s AM says, love it, like a history podcast. Yeah, kind of. Thank you. Appreciate that. So there we go. Like I said, reading your chat. And what's up? I got you there, Robert. Testing, buddy. I see you. What's up, MJ? MJ says, good show. Thank you. Thank you. Just need the feedback, guys. Just like I said, if you'd rather talk about other things, like I said, this is your show too. So if you want more of this, we'll do more of this. If you want more of other things, then that's what we'll do. But okay, so So as we continue thinking about this and talking about this, what do you think? There you go. Rohan sent me a message that said I need one of these cups that says ancient astronaut theorists say yes. Yeah, right? Right. Totally. I would totally drink beer from that. All right, so there you go. All right, so again, we got a few minutes left for you. We do 2 hours on the radio, and then we do a third hour off the radio. So we got a few minutes if you guys have a comment on this. Again, 702-957-1037. And we're just talking about UFOs tonight, sort of in a historical context of how come this Tic Tac stuff is the way it is, and how come it seems like the government is controlling the narrative fiercely when there are so much more compelling UFO cases in the past. Like I said, it seems like an odd way to go about it, unless, of course, you're trying to deceive people. And that's my theory. It's my theory. Good night, Fred. Thanks for hanging out with us. That's my theory. And so that's like I said. But what do you guys think? As always, I am not the arbiter of anybody's truth. I don't want anybody to believe things I say just because I say them. I want you to think about it yourself, and I want you to make up your own mind. So, as you know, this is not the answer show. This is the question show, and that's why we get together and do this live and talk about these things. So, there it is. So as we tick down, we got a couple minutes left on Fringe, and then we'll continue streaming on Rockfin, D-Live, YouTube, and Periscope. And it's almost feeling natural now. Just leave Facebook out of the equation and keep on trucking. Let's see. What else do we got? Let's see. There you go. All right. So let's see. Looking at the chat. What's going on? Okay. So doing our thing, and let's keep on rolling here. All right. So as we finish up, right, we're kind of winding down. We got two more in the third hour. We got a third hour of Troubled Minds coming up, and we got two more. The top two, in my opinion, and these ones start to get nuts. All right. This stuff starts to get pretty out there, and you'll see, culminating in like a WTF type situation. That, again, it's so crazy, right? The things that supposedly happened and were investigated by an Air Force in Brazil, that you would expect everybody would have heard of this UFO encounter. And once again, it's one of those ones that seems to be redacted from history of sorts. So is it fake? Again, hundreds of witnesses, maybe thousands of witnesses. But in that case, just as a teaser to keep you around, people were attacked by UFOs. Yep, we're going to get there. We're going to get there tonight. So there's your teaser as we finish this up. Thanks for listening, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us on Fringe. And as you know, like I said, if you're listening on Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop, Lighting the Void. Fantastic show right after this, and then Ryan Gable after that. And then if you're listening to us and on any of the other platforms, that would be Rockfin, D-Live, YouTube, and Periscope. Hang around for a third hour of Troubled Minds, because we're going to keep talking about this. We got two pretty interesting and notable and crazy, let's say, UFO incidents, which of course are my top two crazy UFO incidents of all time. So, like I said, thanks again for being here. You guys are the best. I know you could be doing a million other things right now, but you're here with us in this moment, and I thank you for that. I appreciate it a lot. And as we finish, you guys know the drill. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange, and be sure, be strong, be true. And thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. Once again, third hour Troubled Minds coming up on all the streams. Stick around. All right, we are off the fringe, so we are officially in the third hour of Troubled Minds, and you guys know this is when we have a little bit more length to let you call if you want to. You have a little something more to say than just a minute or two. We've got some time here to be flexible because we don't have radio breaks after this, and we're just going to truck on for the third hour and keep talking about the top 5 UFO incidents of all time. I've compiled a list, and it gets crazy. Third hour is when this gets really nuts because the last two start to become, let's say, disturbing. So that's what we're doing tonight. That's what we're going to continue talking about. And like I said, it's a little different style than we usually do. We like to kind of be all over the place when we talk about this stuff and kind of a little more, I think all over the place is the best way to describe it. But I think being able to do many different ways and many different styles is a good thing. It's a strength, not a weakness. So there you go. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So 2-minute break, and we're going to be back with more Troubled Minds in just a moment. Don't go anywhere. 2-minute break, third hour of Troubled Minds coming up. All right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're here talking about the top 5 UFO encounters of all time. And again, kind of looking at them in the context of this Tic Tac stuff that we're supposed to believe is a modern day disclosure. And of course, right, everybody has critics because, well, nobody can agree on anything anymore. But there's a group of a fervent group of people out there that are really into the government narratives. It's like they position themselves as gatekeepers, and they want to believe all the stuff that comes out of the quote anonymous sources and all the rest of this. I can't do it. I just can't do it. Like it seems to me very psyop-y, very information operation type stuff. And so, there you go. That's kind of why I want to look at this and frame it in the context of the actual Tic Tac stuff and what we're supposed to believe. But there's a whole bunch of stuff kind of in the past here that kind of makes you wonder. So Robert's got a question. Says, do you have a Troubled Mind store mic? Yes, we do. We do. I apologize because it's not great. There's not a lot of stuff on there. It's just like logo merchandise with just a little alien head logo. And it's I do know Penny bought a shirt, and there's some folks that purchased some masks and things with like the alien on the mask. I've got one of those myself, actually. But I don't know. So it's not the best. So if you guys are into merch and you guys want some merch, we can do that. We can make that happen. Let me know if you're interested, and we'll definitely we can improve it, let's say, for sure. But okay, so we're still talking about the UFO top 5 UFO incidents tonight. And with that said, we got looks like we got Austin on the phone here. He says that he's connecting in and out. Okay, so let's go to Austin. Austin in Michigan. How are you, my friend? Can you hear me? I assume that you were in the caller queue, so maybe you wanted to be on the show. What's up, buddy? Are you there? Testing 1 2. Test 1 2. Okay, nope. He left the Discord, so I don't know. Maybe he was in the wrong channel. So if you jump in the caller queue, guys, I'm going to try and put you on the show because that's what that is for. So looks like he's back actually. So let's try this. And he sent me a message. Let's figure out what's going on here. Let's see. Is he going to be on the show? Okay, try me now. Cool. Here we go. This is Austin in Michigan. What's up, Austin? Welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
Can you hear me now?
Loud and clear.
Oh, well, okay. Oh.
What's on your mind, my man? I take it you've been listening to some of the Troubled Mind stuff tonight with the UFO encounters. What do you think?
Well, I just tried to tune in. I've been having trouble on Rockfin through the DuckDuckGo. It's I think it's my phone. My phone's acting really funny, and it keeps pausing every 10 seconds.
Okay, that's
and
strange.
I think I'm like.
Sorry, go ahead.
I think I'm like 10 seconds behind, even though it says live, because I didn't even hear you say I was getting put on.
Gotcha. Okay. There is going to be a natural delay. That's just the way streaming works. But here's what you may not know, that there's a Rockfin app. So if you're having problems directly on your smartphone, you might be able to just join the Rockfin app, download that sucker, and do it direct like that. It's probably a better experience, I would think, for mobile.
Yeah, trying to get through that. I just don't have a Google, Apple, or Facebook account.
Gotcha.
I want you to connect through that, so I'll have to make one.
Okay. All right. Cool. So what do you think about the UFO stuff? Let me know if you get that Rockfin stuff worked out. I appreciate you trying. What about the UFO stuff?
Yeah.
Have you been listening to some of the top 5 here and kind of the juxtaposition between maybe historical UFO stuff and the Tic Tac stuff they're trying to shove down our throat?
I did not. I just started trying to tune in for the past 4 or 5-ish minutes. So. Okay.
All right. Cool. So that's what the topic is tonight. Is that there seems to be 2 very different narratives going on here. One is the historical narrative, being that we have tons of encounters with quote UFOs, whatever they may be, and lots of witnesses. All right, we've talked about the Phoenix Lights, of course, with thousands of witnesses there. We've talked about the Gorman Ufo Dog Fight, which had hundreds of witnesses. There was a UFO over a football game at night, and a air traffic control at an airport that saw this stuff, and a fighter pilot in that case. And then, of course, Shag Harbor, which is the Canadian Roswell, they call it. And again, many dozens or even low hundreds of witnesses there. And that's the type of thing that makes me suspicious that when you have a ton of civilian witnesses, they seem to not be interested in those types of stories. But sure as shit, when you have the Navy saying, "Oh, look, we have these videos from our pilots. This is the UFO hotness." You know what I'm saying? That's the thing that gets me frustrated about this. So that's what we're talking about. Got a thought or a comment on that?
How long are the stuff that you're talking about? I'm gonna guess that's all pretty recent, like within the past couple of years, right?
Yeah, the Tic Tac stuff is pretty recent, within the last probably 3 years, which is the UFO narrative we're supposed to believe. They got all the press with 60 Minutes and all the rest of that stuff. But the other stuff we're talking about goes all the way back to like 1948. So it's been happening, and there's some compelling cases with lots of witnesses. So definitely,
like Admiral Byrd.
Yeah,
you're talking about that.
Yeah,
when he was chasing the Foo Fighters, they called them Foo Fighters.
Yeah,
that's what they called them.
Yep, not that we're not talking about Admiral Byrd in particular, but that's another compelling case, right? That was more military though, so I don't know. Maybe it doesn't fit the theme so much, but I don't know. What do you think? What do you think, considering that there might be 2 different UFO situations going on here? What do you think is actually happening?
I think there's a huge diversity of them. A bunch of different unidentified phenomena, whether it be objects or some kind of effects that might be being created by satellites or lasers. And the combination with you remember that Project Bluebeam?
Yes.
That they are doing in China. Well, it makes you really wonder, doesn't it? Because, how do we know they aren't blue beaming us, and then the real UFOs we aren't really seeing because they're so camouflaged? Have you ever looked up in the sky and you've seen, these clouds, and you're like, whoa, that cloud's, really moving, and it's not breaking up at all, and it's just cutting through all the clouds? Have you ever seen something like that? It looked like maybe a perfect shape. A circle? Yeah, definitely. There's a name for it. Or a cigar?
Yeah, they're called lenticular clouds, actually, is what that's called. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. And they're out there. But what do you think? Do you think there's something more to it than just a cloud formation? Think there's something else happening in those clouds?
Yeah, I feel imagine, if you had the finances, right? And you're like, okay, I want to test some, maybe stuff that you captured or whatever, and it's what kind of camouflage would you want in the clouds? Well, why not just be a cloud? That would be I think that would be the smartest camouflage you could have, because people always say, even growing up, I'm sure you could imagine where you would be looking up at the sky and you're like, oh, that looks like a face, or that looks like a hand, and that looks like something bizarre that you don't even understand what that person's saying. What are you talking about? I don't even know. I don't even see that. And then they see it. Maybe they can point it out to you later, after 10 minutes or something. So I feel that is the ultimate camouflage.
I would think so.
There's no better way to do it, because why try to make it invisible when you can just make it look like a cloud? That a cloud would be easier.
Just sort of like half cloaking and make it look like a natural shape, and then nobody's tripping. And so, I agree with you. It does make sense. And some people have suggested that some of these UFOs are hiding in clouds, or maybe causing the shapes of clouds like you're describing. Some of that lenticular clouds is, I believe, what they're called. I'm not a cloud expert.
Oh,
I'm not an expert in anything.
Yeah, go ahead.
But yeah, so just some people have suggested that I've actually seen them myself from what you're talking about, where there are clouds that are shaped like UFOs. So is it pareidolia, like they tell us, we're seeing things that aren't there, or is there maybe something to it, I guess is the question, right?
Yes, I do have another suggestion. Maybe they don't even need to cloak ships, and maybe they can just hijack clouds or make clouds and then drive it.
Yeah, there you go. In true troubled minds fashion, kind of taking things to another level here. That why not? I mean, that would just be controlling the weather, which you would expect an actual extraterrestrial civilization to be able to easily do. So why not? You make them and you drive them around.
I think we've been manipulating the weather since the early droughts in the 1900s or whatnot. And in the tanks they have flares or smoke dispersion technology. So if they can do that, what if they use the same technology they used in the 1900s to make it rain, to just throw a thunderstorm so they can pass somewhere, or just ride inside of a cloud and have if they're worried about being detected, maybe they can just have the machine running all the time to where this cloud's just being produced outside of the ship the whole time.
Sure, definitely.
But,
all that stuff.
And then with the
possible.
technology, they could easily avoid airplanes and stuff. If they have the technology to make a cloud camouflage in any form, whether it's just with screen or with producing materials that would collect condensation, and maybe even some energy waves that could move the cloud in certain directions, whatever technology it is, they would still be able to avoid, other planes easily. I feel like if they can do anything like that, if they're that clever, they got to be clever enough to avoid air traffic, because I can imagine people thinking, well, we never heard of anyone flying into a spaceship. Well, what if it has happened and they're flying through a cloud and then this airline disappears? We've I don't know how many cases of airlines disappearing, but I know it was a big thing in the underground community. I remember hearing about it every now and then. I still hear about it, where did this flight go? Flight 201, is that what am I thinking of? What the heck's Flight 201? I don't know why I'm thinking of that.
I'm not sure. Is that the Indonesian one that just disappeared? I don't know. It's not ringing a bell. But
it makes you wonder if maybe it was on purpose too, and they're like, you know what? We just got to take this flight. Where does it go? They don't even have to crash it. Maybe they can just hitchhike it and then take the plane somewhere and to some off the map location or something, and then no one will hear from them again. I mean, I'm just considering all possibilities because I don't know nothing really.
Yeah, same here. No inside sources or any kind of insider information. Just I'm with you. We're just speculating. And like I said, that's part of the shtick of this show is we're allowed to be wrong. We're allowed to speculate. Some will call us conspiracy theorists for doing that, but I don't think that's the case at all. It's just a way to control speech and control the way people think. Now, we got a phone call behind you, my man, so we got to let you go. Any other final thought while we got you on the phone, on the Discord here?
In terms of the UFO stuff?
Yes, sir.
Well, I don't know if saying that I seen one when I was 10 years old at about 12, it was about 11, 12 a.m. And it was over the, Grosse Ile in Michigan. So in Michigan, this is Trenton. The city was Trenton. It was on Riverside Drive Street. And it was in between 11 and 1 a.m., sometime in between there. I got to go dig it out of my notes somewhere. But I have that written down. It was a triangular-shaped craft, and it had green lights on the outer edge of it only, and it was lined all around the triangle, and it looked like it was kind of funky shaped, like it was kind of not just a straight flat triangle. It looked like there was something going on with it. But I got really excited. I was screaming at my mom. I was like, "Come on, mom! Like, there's something outside. Like, it's over the river. It's a freaking UFO!" And I was yelling forever. And my mom just thought she was like, "What was in that energy drink?" You know, she just kept saying, "Oh, it's that NOS. It's that NOS. So I can't give you energy drinks anymore." Right. And I'm like, I was freaking out for weeks over that. And then I was like, you know what? Like, they began to started calling me crazy. And my mom's like, if you say that, you might go to a mental hospital. And I'm like, oh my God.
Exactly.
I was like, are you kidding me?
Exactly.
And so this thing dropped slightly. And then right when it dropped, I looked away to run at my mom, and I came back and it was gone. Or it disappeared right in front of my face. I can't remember which one, but it looked like it was perfectly still over the water, about 50 feet. 50 feet over the water. This was just north of the Groseal Island. So if anyone knows where that's at, if they've seen anything like that, maybe you could call in and say, yeah, I see UFOs there too. But yeah, that's about it.
Sweet. I appreciate it, my friend. Austin in Michigan. Thanks for chiming in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of this. We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
All right, peace.
Thanks, man. All right, there you go. If you guys want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. Thank you to Austin there. Good stuff as always. And that's the thing, right? I don't know. What's actually going on with this? Is there something more to it? And so Sherry's right. What's up, Sherry? Just by the way, Sherry says that I personally think the show is not very challenging. And you were correct. Because, well, it is really done for a reason. Like I said, we're testing some things and introducing ourselves to a new audience. So it's the reason why we've done this, and why we've actually never done a show like this in the past is because you just never know, right? As you know, sometimes we go way out there. So this is kind of like I said, more of a linear type narrative, but it is interesting, sort of historically. So yeah, I appreciate that feedback, and I hear you. You're totally right. Let's go to Matt in California. What's up, Matt? Thanks for calling. How are you tonight?
Good. How's it going, Mike?
Doing very well, thank you. Just hey man, living the dream, sipping some beer, talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
What's on your mind, my man?
Yep. Yeah. Good show.
Thank you.
I want to tell my top UFO stories. So the first one is, of course, Phoenix Lights. Just because there's so many people that saw it, and it was so big, and I couldn't tell at first when you see the light if each individual light was its own identical craft, or if it was one ginormous mothership craft, all connected with the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, that's the weird part, right? Were they individual ones flying in some sort of formation, or was it exactly like some have described, multiple actual football fields big, this thing, silent, hovering, moving extremely slowly? Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm with you. I think that Phoenix Lights
a mothership.
One, exactly, like a mothership, exactly. And the Phoenix Lights one is compelling as hell just because it was so widely covered and so many people saw it. But yeah, good stuff. What else you got, man?
Next one is the school children in Brazil on the playground story.
Okay.
That one I like because I like the story of it, how the aliens are trying to communicate to help man. And also, again, many witnesses, a whole classroom full of kids saw the same UFO, the same thing.
That's I think it was Zimbabwe, and it was the aerial school. The aerial school is what we're talking about, where they actually saw extraterrestrial entities at the playground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Right on. Yeah, that's a weird one for a lot of reasons. Obviously, if you're actually seeing extraterrestrials on the ground, well, that blows the roof off of the conversation, doesn't it? It becomes not UFOs at all anymore.
And another one, this is a story I saw it on a show, the short stories. But the story itself might be different variations of it. It's not the story that's important. It's what the conversation afterwards, the theory.
Okay.
And so the story is these two guys are hunters and they're hunting in the woods, and they stumble upon this UFO, a silver craft disc, and they're trying to figure out what it is. And so they go up to it, and they go to touch it, and it's like radioactive, like burns their hands. And the craft starts up. It starts to, activate. And when it does, these binary code comes out of it into the light, and it's like ones and zeros. And so they're kind of dumbfounded. But one of the guy, he's smart enough to like grab a stick and write it in the mud, the code. And so the UFO takes off, and then they go to the hospital for like severe radiation burns. And then when they get out, they go to like a master, like a guy professional that knows about binary to decipher the code. And the code was something about how these aliens, they are us, the humans, from the future, traveling back into the past to like, I don't know, like look up on us. And so that theory is it's an interesting theory because it will explain a lot of things.
Yeah, curious that I think that's as we continue to think about this and talk about this, those are the theories that really kind of tie this whole thing together. Is what's happening here? Do you know where that incident happened where he did the binary and did that whole bit? Can you remember the name of that? I'd love to look into that.
No, I'm gonna have to go look that up, and if I find it, I'll post it.
Okay, yeah, no sweat. So that's the weird part about this. You consider all these weird instances that, like I said, clearly not every single account is credible, right? There are people trying to fool us. Like I said, you turn on YouTube and there's fake UFOs everywhere, right? And that's part of the frustration with this, because there's some compelling cases. And so when you start to muddy the waters with all this fake garbage and people saying dumb things like swamp gas and lenticular clouds to really claim that they're not UFOs and it's pareidolia and all this other stuff, it's frustrating. It is frustrating when you believe there could be something more and everybody just dashes it at every turn. But yeah, well, as you know, we're going to keep on thinking about this and talking about this. What do you think about this type of show? Like I said, we usually don't do this and kind of go back into history with a show like this, but I think it's important to note that the narratives coming out of the government now are different than the things that happened in the past, and that's suspicious as hell, right?
Yeah, I like how you tie it together, how we're talking about it throughout history, but then bringing it back to the Tic Tacs, and that's all they're showing us. That is interesting. How come we're not talking about all the other ones in the UFO or UAP report?
Exactly. They just conveniently left them out. And I mean, how could you leave out the Phoenix Lights? They could have tossed that in there and said, well, we don't know what that was. And you know what I mean? And then we would at least believe a little bit more that they tried, but it doesn't seem like they tried at all. It's embarrassing even. Yeah.
So one more, I don't know if you're going to talk about it. There's still two more left. Are you going to talk about the Mantell UFO incident?
No, actually, I cut that one out because there were two that were too similar, the two fighter plane ones. But yeah, go ahead if you want to add that one in.
Oh, okay. So this story is there's a jet fighter pilot his name's Mantell, and yeah, he goes to intercept a UFO, and his plane ends up crashing. He dies. It's an unfortunate, tragic story. But I think with that, first of all, being a jet pilot and how you're saying those people are trained to like observe and identify things. So he's seeing this. He can identify it. And with those guys with the Tic Tacs, they were saying that maybe it was like a submarine under the water, but like they're jet pilots. You don't think they've never seen a submarine under the water?
Exactly. Or Venus in the night sky, or a meteorite, or all these other like basic things that they try and write UFOs off as. Or in that case, I think the Mantell incident, they called it a skyhook weather balloon. And so we're led to believe that this experienced fighter pilot chased this thing to his death, right? He went too high up because he couldn't catch this thing because it was outrunning him, and then they explained it away as a skyhook weather balloon. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense.
And so the reason I like the story is, so the story was that his boss, his officer, the command was to disengage and turn around and come back to the base. And so the other pilots in the platoon, they turned around. But he didn't. He went after it. He was so curious as to what it was. He went after it. And so the speculation of how his plane crashed, you know, he like pushed his plane to the limit, trying to like maneuver with, you know, obviously the UFO is going to outmaneuver a jet, or something happened where he crashed. But anyways, or another one, you know, they say that being around a UFO, it like caused electronical failure.
Right.
So maybe that's how his plane crashed.
Exactly.
I'm speculating. I don't know how. But the point of the story is the man, he died a hero to me, you know, because he was trying to find out what it was.
Exactly. Unafraid.
So respect to that story.
Amen to that. And he chased it to his death. And so they do. So the way they explained it, they say he went too high, he blacked out and spiraled out of control and died because he was unconscious. But you're right. So if it is in the classic UFO sense that maybe there was something happening with a mechanical malfunction because he came in close proximity to the UFO, right? That's another explanation, wouldn't it be?
Yeah, I'm just speculating now you know, how he crashed.
Exactly.
But I think it's important. It's important. You know, it's like I said, it's a tragic story, but it's important because we're here talking about it now. And I think that if he didn't go after it, if he turned around and went back, the story would just be, oh, some jet pilots think they saw a UFO. But this, how he went after it, and the whole story is like more compelling.
Exactly. Agreed. Amen, sir. Thank you for remembering that one. All those ones that we did, I'm going to upload to this channel as well, to Rockfin, so people will know exactly what you're talking about, because I did do a whole 10-minute segment on that. So yeah, good shit as always, my friend. Anything else while we got you on? We got Kelly right behind you here on the Discord.
Nope, I'm looking forward to Kelly. That's just my top UFO stories. So thank you, Mike. Have a good night.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the call. That's Matt in California. Good stuff, as always. Look, this is the thing, right? We do this live to include you. If you want to be part of the show, it's 702-957-1037. Appreciate the phone call. Kelly, are you there, buddy? Whenever you're ready. I got a couple more UFO stories to get to, but if you want to hang out, you're welcome to as we go through those. But if you want to dip in and dip out real quick, you're welcome. As you know, Kelly's been with this show for a very, very, very long time. He's been calling in almost every night for years. And he calls us family, rightfully so. Welcome to the show, Kelly. How are you, my man?
Oh, good. How you guys doing?
Doing very well. Welcome to the show. What do you think about this stuff?
There's been all kinds of major sightings around the world. That's not only here in the United States, but like he was saying, the caller before, I can't remember his name, but he was just like that Russian pilot. But I also posted one on Facebook or on Discord as well on the chat. And this one comes from, it's called Ostankino, Russia. And it's actually they have pictures of this, it's a UFO. It kind of looks like a Tic Tac type thing. Well, it's lit up like one anyway, and it's kind of got the shape of it, but it's an actual landing where it landed on the ground. Shows a couple what looks like soldiers pointing guns at it. But the major one for me for the United States would be the War of LA.
Yes, perfect segue. We're going to get to that next. That's actually the next one on the list. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us about the Battle of LA, my friend.
Yeah, that's one was, I think it was World War I or II. I can't remember which one it was, but that was World War II. Yeah, so we had our radar systems detected an incoming object over LA, over the Pacific side. So everybody was on nerves. World War II, all the bombs. We had a bunch of military, army outposts all through the city. Everybody had, you had to turn their lights off. If they had the alarms go off, everybody tried to shut the whole city lights off and stuff. But yeah, I guess so they threw on the searchlights and they see this bright object in the sky, so they start shooting at it, and they shot thousands of rounds at this thing and didn't hit it. I mean, they say they hit it, but it didn't do anything to it. It just kind of bounced off it, or just I don't know. It just kept flowing, and they've got actually even video of this thing, not just the pictures that they have on the newspaper out of Los Angeles. But yeah, I mean, there's famous pictures of it. The only reason why people died is because of falling shrapnel from all these bombs that they. I mean, I think it was for hours they were trying to shoot this down. You know.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah, tragic, of course, but and this is the thing that always seems to come up, right? It's like, oh, well, there was, nothing. We were shooting at this thing that showed up on radar, and, well, we've got a photograph of this, a famous photograph taken by the Los Angeles Times, which I'll put up on the screen here. It's a small version, which you can see now, but I'll give you the full photograph in just a second here. But, all this went down, and we're going to just write it off to, like, World War II jitters, right? Where they're shooting the shit out of something in the sky, showed up on radar, they hit the hell out of it, and it never came down. It just floated away gently into the night sky. Weird, right? Weird.
For me, too, that kind of like, proves the fact. I mean, do we really have anything that can, really affect these things? If it can take shrapnel that huge, and these are, the rounds they were shooting at it, they're like probably 8 to 10 inch motor cannons that they're shooting at this thing, enough to blow a tank up, and this thing's just, bouncing right off of it. So it's kind of interesting that, they're just claiming that it was, I don't know the final verdict, but, some people saying that, that it was, I heard it was an air balloon or some bullshit like that, but. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty interesting it floated over a whole city, and we were, literally at war with this thing, and it didn't do anything to it.
Exactly. And like they say, here's the actual photograph taken by the LA Times, the Los Angeles Times, back in, when was the date of this thing? So this was in 1942, February 24th, 1942. And it was just weeks after the Pearl Harbor, right? December 7th was Pearl Harbor. And so we're talking February 24th, literally maybe a couple months later. And so clearly, like, I get it, like the war jitters were on high and they were, searching off the coast and all this other stuff. But then, so there's a few weird things about this, is that number one, like you said, it showed up on radar. So if it's a weather balloon, is that going to be the case? Sometimes maybe, it depends on if they put like a, something that would show up. I don't know if they had transponders back then, but, maybe some sort of metallic, something that would reflect the radars. I don't know, something, right? If it was had a large enough profile. But it showed up on radar, and they thought it was actually Japanese planes coming in. And there were eyewitnesses of the account that say that they were there with the radar operators when they said yes, and they could even count the number of planes on radar. And so they thought for sure this was an attack happening. But, well, it turns out this is exactly what it is. So this photograph, I'm going to put it on full screen if you guys can see this. This is exactly what actually went down. This was a real photograph taken by the Los Angeles Times, all right, on that night, February 24th, 1942. And look at what all the searchlights are pointing exactly at this thing, and all the dots in the air is all 50 millimeter cannons trying to shoot this thing down, all right? So you tell me, it was over 1,000 rounds fired over the course of an hour or so. And, well, whatever was in the sky there that you can see very clearly didn't get shot down. Something suspicious, right, Kelly? Something's up here.
Yeah, I mean, come on, man. This thing flies for an hour. An hour is a very long time, especially when you're shooting bombs at something. You know what I mean? That's exactly. That's a lot of equipment, a lot of weaponry. I mean, yeah, that's they have no answer for that. Or the other one, I posted another one that's intriguing to me, which was it's called the Cedarville, California UFO incident. It was back in 1982. I also put those on the show chat. If you want to, there's a couple pictures on it. There's one is the closer up of it. It's kind of like a V-shaped object. It's black. It's got like the front end of it. It's kind of, I don't know. It's like I would say like a bubble, or not like a bubble, but a round end, and it goes back into two wing V shapes. The people that sat and watched it for a couple hours said that it looked like it had issues flying. It kind of like mechanical issues. It didn't have any noise to it. It just kind of looked like it was tilting sideways, in which it kind of like they said it was pointed down, like the nose of it was pointed down, and like it was having trouble staying in the air. So these people sat and just watched it for a couple hours. They've one man just, I guess he had a camera at the time, and he snap pictures of it. He's got the wide range of it where it shows people sitting in front on the cars and trucks. And then, the other photograph is obviously it's a, enlarged photo of it. But yeah, that one was in 82.
Yep, Cedarville. I've got. Once you brought it up, I put it up on the screen so people can see exactly what you're talking about here. Yeah, weirdness. I don't know about this one in particular, but this is what I'm saying. Like, history is rich in stories like this, and you I picked 5 that are compelling to me, but there are hundreds or even thousands of compelling accounts just in recent history. Like, if you go back in 50 years, man, like there's an unbelievable amount of stuff. And like I said, it seems dishonest that we're talking about Tic Tac so much when this is the type of history that we really should be looking at, trying to collect the information. And yeah, man, here we are, right, trying to figure things out, and it just seems so stupid because Tic Tac, Tic Tac, Tic Tac, Tic Tac. Get out of here, man! Right? Come on, it's insulting.
Yeah, well, I have a ton of other photos too that people have taken around. Very old ones as well. That's what I like to do, make sure that I get some of this stuff that's been that's kind of harder to find, that you have to really dig, or they're no longer available, unless you've had maybe a book, you bought a book or something. Because some of the stuff nowadays, they want to try to get rid of, they don't want to have people understanding the true dialect of what's going on, you know what I mean? Not just, what the narrative they're trying to put out there for, like they're saying, like these Tic Tac stuff or whatnot. But even those shape, the elongated, I would say tubular shaped, there's some that I have some older ones that don't have, like the ship is not lit up, you know what I mean? Like whatever type of energy propulsion that they're using, they say that, there's stories about that it lights up the whole craft, so that's why it lights up like really bright, but there's other pictures that I have and other videos that you can probably search if anybody has. But yeah, it's the long tubular ones, they're I've heard that it could be Andromedan or even reptilian aircraft. But yeah, these things are, and they're actually even known or even seen nowadays, like most of them you'll see now is that you're still flying in and out of the volcano down in Mexico, the famous volcano down there that they always photograph because it's, constantly active. And there is constantly those type video or those type UFOs flying in and out of that volcano. And especially one down in, I believe, in South America as well. But so for me, what's interesting is why the volcano. So that's where I found he's a physiologist. Well, not a physiologist, but he's a scientist that his theory on it. Right, his name is Nassim Hamed, and his theory, because he goes with string theory, right? So he had a whole video on it. We didn't have time enough to do it on one show, but I believe I had it on there. But he was talking about if you have a jump engine or a spacecraft that can go into a singularity, right? And then you go, like your jump engine goes into a singularity, and then you go into because his main thing was black holes, right? So a black hole can goes down into a singularity. No one has ever seen past the event horizon, but everything goes down into a singularity and shoots out somewhere. So, and I've seen some posts now. They're saying that they've seen light at the back end of a black hole. But the thing about it is, with his theory, is that if you have a jump engine that can do a singularity into a singularity, you can jump anywhere into the universe. So the main one that he has seen is like a black hole that's is created, but there are black spots on the sun. So he's got videos on that where it shows like planet-sized UFOs going into the sun and then shooting at because the theory is that if there's a black spot on the sun, there's actually an exact same one on the opposite side. So when you jump through that black spot, it's going to like shoot out what looks like a solar flare, but it's actually what it looks like, because NASA tried to hide that, the same video that she's explaining. They were trying to say that it was comets, but there was no tails on it. So that's what, when they had a conversation, I guess those scientists against NASA, because NASA came out and said, oh yeah, those were, they took that video down because it was from the Soho satellite. But yeah, long story short though, but he was just saying that, yeah, like volcanoes, that's the same reason why it's like being those spots on the sun, because it's it's going down to the Earth's core or whatnot. But actually scientists, well, I won't get into that one. But anyway, yeah, he's saying that if you can do a singularity into a singularity, you'll be able to do jump. So that's why he's saying a lot of those ones can be used, like volcanoes, the sunspots, or even black holes. You can jump throughout the universe, which is pretty interesting to think about.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And like I said, when you consider all of these other things, back to all the insulting things they try and tell us about what may be the reality we live in, right? And that's it. As you know, I don't claim to know the answers here. It's not my thing. But all I'm saying is there's plot holes everywhere. If you listen to official government narratives, man, it's embarrassing, some of the things they tell us and we're expected to believe. Like I said, it seems to be the social media too, right? You get some knucklehead saying some dumb stuff yesterday, but then he changes his mind and says something else tomorrow, and we're expected to believe that, forget yesterday. No, like you were a moron yesterday. Like, you know what I mean? It's the same stuff with the government, right? They expect our memories to be 24 or 48 hours long, just like their stupid news cycles. It's dumb, man. And here we are trying to figure it out, right?
Yeah. But let's see if I can remember another one. I don't know if you pulled up those other pictures about the what was that? El Tankso, Russia. Those photos that I posted in there.
Yep.
It's Ostankino. That's Ostenko. I guess I don't know what, I might be butchering the name, but it's in Russia. But yeah, those are the pictures that are actually, and I believe that was back in the 50s or 60s. But yeah, I mean, it's not like these things have not been photographed for thousands of years, or even, I should say hundreds of years, and drawn and put on cave walls for thousands of years, and being in ancient texts and in every ancient text across the planet talk about these things, So it's not like, but nowadays it's just, I wish a lot of people now, and there is a lot of information coming out with sightings of these unidentified flying objects, is that I wish now people would just get better cameras, instead of just using always the cell phone. I have purchased a few different type of recording instruments, but yeah, now I'm just sitting back and waiting to find out, So some of these times we're going to be taking some trips to the high mountains here in Colorado and go camping and see what we can see.
Nice. Check out the sky, man. That's the only way to do it, right? Like you gotta take it in your own hands and get some equipment out there and start watching, seeing what's going on, because they can't hide it from us if it's happening out there in plain sight, right? That's what this is really all about. Spend more time looking up, and you'll never be fooled, because you'll see it. It's going to be out there in front of you. Yeah, definitely. Good stuff, my man.
Yeah. No, that was just that's just some things I just wanted to add for the show tonight.
Okay, appreciate it, man. These actually two you brought up I hadn't heard of before, and that's sort of the idea here, is that we get together, we come up with stuff and teach each other these things. So I'll try and find the one you described. If anybody has a link to that, if you could drop it in. I did put the pictures up that you've got there. You said it was Russia, and I didn't catch the name, but I'll see if I can find it anyhow. So I appreciate it, man. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, it's Ostanko, Ostankino, Russia.
Okay.
Ostanko.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So for me too, yeah, like any other world round, for me, like, because again, I research a lot of the old stuff, so for me is the ones that interesting is the Vimanas that they talk about, that these flying gods over from India. Those are the major ones for me. That's that's pretty telling, And besides the Anunnaki story, but like within the Hindu stories, that's just to delve into that, man. That's one hell of a rabbit hole for me. If just looking at the structures and the temples and stuff that they made, and this shit's out of one piece block stone, one mountain. And it's just incredible to see, like the Allure caves. How the hell do they think that humans made these things? For me, it's just, I don't know, man. Pretty, I would say impossible for back then, unless they were going to show me something, that I'd like to see it though. But yeah, other sightings like that. Yeah, I'm just waiting to see what else you guys pull up, see what everybody else can come out with. Gotcha.
Do you want to hang out while I go for the last one? We got about 10 or 15 minutes left. Totally up to you, of course.
Sure, why not?
Okay, cool. So we got this. So we're here with Kelly tonight, and Kelly is an old friend of the show. He says when he shows up, he says, "Hello, fam." And like I said, when he joined tonight, rightly so. He's been talking to us about all kinds of things for years. And thank you, Kelly. I appreciate you spending your time with us. I say it 100,000 times. You've heard it over and over again, but it does apply to you too, my friend. I just want to let you know. Appreciate it a lot.
It's always my pleasure.
Thank you. All right, so let's go to, this is the last one now. This is the most compelling case to me, UFO-wise, right? We're talking about top 5 UFO cases of all time, right? My top 5 UFO cases. And maybe comparing them to what's happening with the actual Tic Tac stuff, right? The narrative we're supposed to believe is disclosure, all right, which of course is all government controlled, which to me is suspicious as hell, all right? So let's go to this one now. Now, this is my top UFO case of all time, because not only is it tons of witnesses, it's multiple UFOs, it's over weeks of time, and of course, you betcha, they're attacking people. This is called Operation Prato, Prato, but it's also known as, the translation in English is Operation Saucer. All right, and so Operation Saucer goes down a little something like this. It is an investigation carried out between 1977 and 1978 by the Brazilian Air Force following alleged UFO sightings in the city of Colares, Brazil, Colares. The investigation was closed after finding no unusual phenomena. Now, this is the best part. No unusual phenomena. You want to know what happened out there? Operation Saucer? Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's see. Here we go. I got it right here. Here we go. All right. So in the years of 1977 and 78, locals of northern Brazil were terrorized by what they described as luminous and vampire balls of light, a phenomenon soon nicknamed chupa chupa, meaning sucker, of course, which is chupa cabra is goat sucker in Spanish. This is Portuguese because it's Brazil, but chupa chupa means sucker. And the reason they called them that is because these UFOs would appear out of nowhere. They would shine these lights on them, and they thought they were draining their blood because they would be hit with these lights, the people would, from these UFOs, these orbs, and where they hit their skin, these beams, these laser beams or whatever they were, they would actually not only leave radiation burns, but these puncture marks, like they were actually sucking their blood through this laser, right? And this is real. Look it up. Operation Saucer, guys. This is a documented thing. And so the thing is, right, we always talk about the consideration that we're being fooled, right, in some capacity, that we're being fooled here. And this is somehow propaganda or something else, right? Who knows? However, we have a ton of eyewitnesses. As usual, like the ones I brought up tonight, I want to point out that there are so many eyewitnesses on all of this stuff. Because the way this goes down is, like I said, if the government can't take the official narrative and boil it down to just a few talking points, this is what you get. You get almost mass hysteria here. How would you feel, right? You're just going about your business and these flying saucers start showing up and shooting people. And not only that, right, getting puncture wounds, radiation burns. And some of these clinics or hospitals in the area, they were actually being overrun with victims that had, you see it now. They're like, the victims of, the COVID or whatever, right? It's filling up the hospitals. Well, they were filling up hospitals and like clinics for radiation burns from people being attacked by UFOs in 1977 and 1978. Like, how absurd does that sound, right? So this continues. Just a little bit of actual what happened here. I've got all the links. As always, you guys know the links are down below. You can all find all this stuff. I've sourced it all. And supposedly they released these government documents recently, like in I think that was the late 90s, is when the Brazilian government actually released the information regarding Operation Saucer. But check this out. It continues, right? So they called it Sucker because they were hit by these lights. The lights actually gave them radiation burns and left puncture marks on their skin, so they thought they were actually sucking out blood through the UFO laser or whatever, right? So this continues, right? This is the Brazilian. So they didn't know what to do. Like I said, it was over the course of weeks this happened. It wasn't just one time. It was weeks. People being attacked by these flying saucers, these orbs in the sky, shining lasers causing radiation burns, clearly hysteria. People were freaking out because they didn't know what the hell to do. And so here we go. So the panic reached great proportions and led to the creation of a military operation of the Brazilian Air Force dedicated to investigate the subject, called Operation Saucer, or Prato, Prato in Portuguese. There we go. It would become one of the biggest ufology stories in Brazil, mainly after in 1997, its commander, by the name of Jurang Holanda, publicly confirmed his participation in the operation. Recently, the operation was revisited in a popular Brazilian TV show and was also the subject of a series of documentaries from the History Channel titled The Brazilian Roswell. Now, that's the craziest part, right? So not only do we have tons of witnesses on the ground, literally hundreds of witnesses, they removed the women and children from the area because they didn't want them to get attacked. They were doing nighttime vigils, right, to 24 hours a day watch because they didn't want these things to sneak up on them when they were asleep. Like, this is the thing. And then they called in the Brazilian Air Force to help investigate. And back to the Wikipedia article that we started with, which is hilarious again, right? What was the end here? The investigation was closed after finding no unusual phenomena. And we have actual doctors that worked at those clinics that were describing the wounds. I mean, this is nuts, right? This is nuts, man. I'm sure you've heard of this one, right, Kelly? We've talked about this before.
Yeah, there's actually with that too is but for weeks, man, that's kind of crazy, man. That they're just, you know what I mean. And what's interesting to me is that you're saying that how it sounds like they're getting puncture holes into their, into their bodies, like their, something's being sucked out. It's kind of what they find when they're finding those bodies that were like cattle mutilations, but they were human mutilations, and almost the exact same thing. It was, a few people that were end up missing, and they found their bodies later, and they were just like cattle mutilations. So now that you were talking about that, I was actually going through some videos or some photos of some old video or some old pictures from Peru and Brazil all through down there. It's pretty interesting that they still have, but it's Brazil, for me, it seems like it's more violent of any kind of interaction that they have. If you read stories and stuff like that, it seems to be more of a violent action that's going on down there. It's not just, people being kidnapped, or I wouldn't say kidnapped, but like, disappearance of people. But when they find them, they find them in these very weird particular, medical issues that they've had, where it looked like they were, the lower jaw was missing, the eyelids, kind of like the cattle mutilations, where their organs were coming out, everything was drained of blood, no insects would want to touch the bodies. So yeah, I mean, that's, for me, that's the interesting part about the whole South America thing, besides the, of course, the ancient stuff throughout Peru and Bolivia, but yeah, the whole Brazil thing, I don't know why, but it seems like it's always really violent of some interactions with UFOs down that way.
Yeah, like almost like it's a cultural thing. Like, and I think, so the cynical mind I have, the cynical part of my mind, I mean, is what I really mean there is that it makes you wonder if maybe there was some sort of a particular government testing happening, right, in those particular areas for who knows what else for the future. Because this was, again, 1977, 1978. There's been like a widely known that the government has been doing nefarious tests on civilian populations for a long ass time. MK Ultra, the syphilis stuff of the South there in the old days, where they were infecting African American men with syphilis, and telling them they were giving them a vaccine instead, right? And then, yeah, so they were actually intentionally infecting them with this so that they could test them and see how long it took for this stuff to set in and kill them, right? Like, I mean, this is right. We got up here in north of Vegas, they were letting off nuclear bombs, right? And downwind from Cedar City and St. George, which now has like a huge spike in cancer, years and years and years later. I mean, it goes on and on and on, like the dirty shit that the government's been into. And, right? I mean, so it makes me wonder if there's some correlation with that maybe violent UFO thing, because maybe they were like, let's test it down there because for whatever reason, I don't know, maybe press coverage or they could cover it up if something went wrong. I don't know, man. But it is a good point that you brought up that it does seem to be that some really insidious shit went down there in Brazil in late 70s, early 80s, and I don't know. I don't have answers for that, but what in the world, right?
Yeah, it's pretty sad too, though, that some people like that have to endure something like that. I mean, but again, so these witnesses with this story that you're talking about is these things are flying out of the sky, chasing people around. That shit would be crazy. That would be, for me, that would be insane. You know what I mean? That'd be like straight up
War of the Worlds.
War.
Yeah, right.
It, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because if there's some UFO chasing me with a laser beam, shit, don't think I'm got no AR with that shit. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna shoot back. Hell yeah, man. Hell yeah.
Like old friends back in the day, I'd be shooting back,
Yeah, man. If it's coming after you and giving you radiation burns, and that's the sickest part. And so, but then not only that, like I said, there's dozens, hundreds, maybe even thousands of witnesses. It's unclear exactly how many people were affected, but they were filling up clinics treating people for radiation burns, and actually, the doctors describing these puncture wounds, which it came to describe the term, right? Sucker is what they were calling these things. Nuts, man. Like, and that's why, to me, that's like the top. Like that's War of the Worlds type shit. And once again, right? Was it faked? I don't know, man. Like, I think if you probably track down some of those people that were afflicted by that, though, they ain't going to tell you that's fake. So, yeah, who knows what actually happened? I'm open to believing it's a government op, but if we're talking UFOs and like the top of craziest shit ever to happen, that's literally War of the Worlds type shit. And so, yeah, that's my number one, just for that reason. It's not just sightings. Not only that, so they have actually some of the people down there, the witnesses in the government report, stated that they saw entities inside these orbs. It wasn't just like floating orbs. It looked like they were small entities, 3 to 4 feet tall, piloting these orbs and shooting lasers at people. I mean, it was 1977. Lasers didn't exist yet, did they? I mean, as a weapon like that? Not here. Not on Earth, anyway. I mean, yeah, crazy shit, man.
That story too. It still bothers me to understand where. Yeah, that's like, yeah, that is War of the World shit. You know what I mean? That's why I don't like. I'm not as scared. That's why my story, my past, some of the stuff I came out on the show and talked about. But I mean, from what I've seen in my life and what I've encountered I'm not afraid of any kind of species. I just want to know the questions that everybody would probably ask, is like, where are you from? How long you been here? These stories of these ancient texts that here on this planet, they got to have some kind of answers, or how long they've been around, or how many different type species been around, because again, in my eyes, it's still we are in a galactic war. My I talked about this type of stuff with my, some family members, and they asked, my personal opinion, what I thought, and that's what I think, that we're stuck in more or less in a galactic war. The humans are, that even if it was, we were created to help something else, or you know what I mean, like the whole stories that were of old. But again, if that's something that's that we probably shouldn't even be a part of, you know what I mean? It's like we got thrown into because we were a part of a creation of something, you know what I mean? So for me, it's hard to try to even trust anything that comes from a different planet unless, they show different intentions. And I'm pretty sure that's what the government think, the governments have always been doing. You'd have to kind of take that into a perspective. Like with the story of Valiant Thor, when he came from Venus, he's trying to help out the planet. That that there was other species here but they're malevolent, and that they're giving us the technologies that these governments want. But in what's the trade? Is the trade even worth it? You know what I mean? So. And it, like within crop circles, like the other thing that you were talking the other night, is that, you've seen that as well, and also when that guy touched the Remlishton Forest, when he touched the aircraft and saying, beware of, false, I can't remember the whole thing right now, but it's like beware of false truths or whatever. And that, somebody's lying out there, man. Somebody's lying. Somebody's probably using us, and it's probably even our own government. And I'm just waiting to find out what's going on even more, man.
There you go.
Summer of UFOs, get it done.
There you go. The Summer of Saucers. Let's make this happen. I appreciate it, my man. We got Jay behind you. You're welcome to stay. You can bounce if you want. Up to you.
No, man, I'm going to bounce, and you guys have a good evening. And yes, we are family, all of us. As long as you guys know, we're all here for the same reason. So you guys have a good evening, and we'll talk to you guys later on.
Appreciate it, my friend. Talk to you soon. Have a great night. Feel better, okay? You said you were not feeling well last night. Thanks, my man. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
All right, there we go. All right, so whenever you're ready, Jay, I got you on mute. If you're, we need some help. I don't have you on mute, but I will if you have some issues.
No. Am I there?
You're there. Welcome, Jay.
Cool.
Welcome, Jay. Welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm a good ways behind.
Oh, that's okay.
Delay. Wow, Kelly is always awesome for blowing it up, making you really seriously get down and think. One of the things with the whole show and, your top five, one of the ones that really gets me thinking is that one that you did not too long back, but a little while back, was with the kids in South Africa. They were just so honest, It's hard to do that, but then I heard you talk about your favorite today, and I was like, well, yeah, that's definitely it. You got documentation of radiation tents and all the whatnot set up. I think one of the reasons maybe they're not giving it to us right now, and we're not talking about these ones, and we're bringing up the Tic Tacs from a couple of years ago and stuff like that, is because if they come out and they tell us what happened in any one of those top 5 or top 10 or on, that they're going to have to admit that they lied. They changed people's lives. If you don't tell the truth, if you don't tell our story about us, we're going to put you out of business. We're going to throw you in jail. We're going to whatever. There was probably some really huge lies that went back. I mean, in 1950, if you said you saw a UFO, people would look at you funny. They probably would kick you out of the church and not go to your store and hire you to fix their fence or whatever. It's not too far from that now, really. It's a little bit better now because, well, the government admitted it, kind of, sort of, in their whole 6 pages.
In their own dishonest way. They admit
it. 6 pages, nothing, which sounded a lot better from you than reading it out loud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's but again, like I say, this is sort of a way to reframe the conversation for a new audience. That's really what this is. So, like I understand it's a lot of this is repeat for what we talked about a lot, but it's a new way of kind of managing the two things and looking at it with a critical eye of, okay, so if all that old stuff is fake, but all this new stuff is real, well, something doesn't add up, right? And like,
wait a minute, man.
Right.
Wait a minute. Man. You heard my brain.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
You're
telling me the thing that was a lie a year ago is now the truth. That's nutty. The lie, 1947 is when Blasfeld crashed. The next year, this guy's chasing shit over a football field.
Yep.
Come on. Yep. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. 400 people, right?
Yeah.
Saw it.
Something like that. Yeah. Yeah. Weather balloons, right? And this is what they keep telling us. It's weather balloons. It's weather inversions. It's swamp gas. It's Venus in the night sky. And once again, right? In many cases, we're talking about like aviators, like combat pilots. You got to be shitting me. No combat pilot is confusing Venus in the night sky for a UFO. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's flying upside down along the bay.
Yeah, come on.
The waves.
It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing when you start talking about how they've explained away a lot of this stuff. And sure, fine, I think that maybe a huge percentage of this stuff is ours, and it maybe always has been. Maybe not, 2,000 years ago, like biblical accounts or something, like Ezekiel's wheel, something like that, right?
Could have very well been, man.
Time travel.
Well, I mean, think about it. Well, I mean, really, if you want to think about it that way, look at where we are now, economically and everything else like that, climate change and all. We could probably be on a pretty big, huge of a collapse, where within a generation, too, people would forget that we used to have planes and cars and all that.
Oh, shit.
But the richest of the rich still have that stuff, and every once in a while you see one fly by and you consider him a god because you never saw it before. Has this happened 100 times before? That's why Kelly always blows my brain up talking about that ancient stuff. I don't have as much time to read. All of them. Maybe there's more than one.
Yeah.
But that's the thing that blows me up, is I think we've been all through this 100 times before. Probably not. Maybe 4 or 5. Whatever.
Whatever. Yeah.
At least once.
At least once. And the theme is always the same here, right? It's the government is lying to us. it's unfortunate, but it seems to be a recurring theme, doesn't it? Not just currently.
The fall of Rome.
Yeah, right.
The fall of Rome.
Yeah.
The government was lying to them.
Yeah. I hope that I hope we're not there. I hope the correlation is not that the fall of Rome is around the corner, because of course we've been labeled the new Rome. so yeah, let's not do that. Let's not do that.
No, I don't know. If the aliens do come, throw your cell phone down on the ground and stomp it with your foot and run to the woods with your slingshot.
All right, there we go. That's solid advice. Solid advice. So as we finish this up, my man, welcome back. You're back home and back to the J-Tros. You want to do a J-Tro? You got a quote for us?
I do have one. Sorry, I'm probably going to be spotty here for a while. I have a doctor's appointment with the youngest boy.
That's okay. You're allowed, man. You're allowed to be human.
Yeah.
It's okay.
But, yeah. I'll bring it up. This one's short, brief, and to the point.
Sure, go right ahead.
Because, fear does not stop death. It stops life. And worrying does not take away tomorrow's trouble. It takes away today's peace. And no clue who said it. It's one of those.
It's amazing when you want to be succinct how incredible you can put such a profound statement into 12 words or whatever, right? Like, that's hot, man. That's hot.
Yeah. I don't know. I really, let's take care of each other. Let's have these conversations with each other about fun stuff, let our minds wander about less of the chaos.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's what this is all about. Let's get together. Let's be kind to each other, and let's have a conversation. Like I said, we're calling this the Troubled Minds Social Club now, because why the fuck not? We get to do what we want to do, and there you go. If you want to run us off social media, you want to run us off all these platforms, we've got backups. We've got alternative options, and we're proving it. So there it is. It's going to be nice to not have to worry about any of the technocrats breathing down our neck because we might go afoul of the algorithms. They can screw off. That's what I think about it, and that's that. Jay, you are the best, my friend. Thank you, everybody, for calling in tonight. Thanks, everybody, for a thoughtful chat. Thanks again to Robert for getting us on Rockfin. Thanks to Jaime for allowing us in. Yeah, this is good stuff, guys. I'm having a good time with this, and hopefully we'll continue these conversations, and we get better and better. That's the goal, right? Better and better, and that's that. That's a wrap. You ready to howl, Jay?
I am.
Let it rip, buddy. Come on, you can do better than that.
I don't know, Mike. Worst case scenario, I'll buy a trunk line, and we can have like 50 people call us all at the same time. Don't give them that.
Ow! There we go. All right, guys. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. We're here with Jay for the J-tro, or the J-outro, as it were. Fantastic quote. Thank you. And yeah, this is what we're doing. We're going to continue doing this Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, and we're doing it on, you got it, Rockfin, D-Live, YouTube, and Periscope, and we're going to be on the Fringe for the first couple hours. And yeah, man, thank you all to everybody out there. Thanks for being enthusiastic. Thanks for subbing up to the channel. Thanks for supporting us. Most importantly, thank you for spending your time with us. Like I said, it's an honor. You guys could be doing any other thing right now. Sleep in, or watching a ball game, or tuning out to some Don Lemon, but you're not. You're here with us. And like I said, I do not take that lightly. I appreciate it very much. So thank you. We'll be back tomorrow. And tomorrow at 7 p.m., we're going to be talking about dreams and premonitions in your dreams. Because, well, there's a new article that came out discussing exactly that. So if you've got good dream stories and have ideas about premonitions and dreams, you're in the right place. You're in the right place as of right now. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.